Chapter 175. Lin Mingio's Plan. Your Majesty, one believe Prince Qing makes a valid point. This matter is grave, and we should deliberate thoroughly. Lin Rahai quickly interjected, noting Xiao Nanye's aggressive posture. Before he could complete his thought, Xiao Nani scoffed, General Lin, despite inheriting your title from your elder brother and hailing from a military lineage, where is your warrior spirit? Unease clouded Lin Rahai's eyes at the taunt. Emperor Qi Ming, who was sitting on the dragon throne, tired of the argument, glanced outside and declared, Enough. It's getting late. We'll continue tomorrow. Everyone, go home. Then, everyone left the palace. Outside the palace gates, Lin Rahai approached Xiao Juanhao. After offering a respectful bow, he said softly, Your Highness, how is Yao Er? Lord Lin, don't worry. The poison in Yao Er's body has been cured, Xiao Juanhao reassured. That's good. Knowing that Lin Mingyao was fine, Lin Rahai couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Mindful of Emperor Qi Ming's preference for distance between the prince and officials, Xiao Juanhao exchanged brief pleasantries before boarding his carriage. Upon reaching the Qing mansion's entrance, news reached Xiao Juanhao that Lin Mingyao had regained consciousness. Dawn was breaking, and without hesitation, he hastened to her chambers. Feeling disoriented, Lin Mingyao tried to rise and bow upon seeing Xiao Juanhao. However, he quickly interjected, Rest. No need for formalities in your state. She settled back onto the bed. Xiao Juanhao sat beside her, his expression filled with concern. Are you still feeling unwell? I apologize for worrying you, Your Highness. Yao Er is fine now, she assured him. That's a relief. She could sense his unease. Your Highness, is something troubling you? From the moment he entered the room, Lin Mingyao noticed a shift in his demeanor. Though his tone remained gentle, his eyes held a trace of frustration. King Chujiang has rebelled, he revealed. Given Lin Mingio's unique abilities, Xiao Juanhao was often candid with her about courtly affairs. Thus, upon her inquiry, Xiao Juanhao briefly told her what happened in the Palace of Heavenly Purity. Lin Mingyao listened quietly as Xiao Juanhao spoke. After Xiao Juanhao finished speaking, Lin Mingyao said in a low voice, Your Highness, this could be an opportunity for you. His eyes flashed with uncertainty at her suggestion. Holding his gaze, she continued in an even softer tone, Your Highness, you and King Cheng have never seen eye to eye. Given the circumstances, why not use this chance to get rid of King Cheng? It's said that the battlefield is unpredictable. One believes King Chujiang is no ordinary adversary. Although Lin Mingio's voice was very soft, Xiao Juanhao still heard every word. When he thought of how Xiao Nani had mocked him at the Palace of Heavenly Purity today, his eyes darkened. After pondering for a while, a decision seemingly made, he smiled warmly at Lin Mingyao. Yao Er, I am truly fortunate to have you by my side. Get well quickly. Once you're healed, one will ask Father to bestow a marriage. I understand, Your Highness. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Lin Mingio's eyes revealed a hint of shyness, but she still nodded. The day was already brightening outside. Xiao Junhao's eyes looked heavy with exhaustion. Seeing his weariness, Lin Mingyao quickly said, Your Highness, you seem weary. Perhaps you should return and rest. Acknowledging his fatigue and heeding Lin Mingio's advice, Xiao Juanhao simply nodded and departed. After he left, Lin Mingyao turned to her maid and inquired, Who helped me cure the poison in my body? The maid, upon hearing Lin Mingio's query, approached and whispered, Miss, it was the eldest daughter of the Jiang family who cured you. Who? The eldest young miss from the Jiang family. Lin Mingio's eyes widened in astonishment upon hearing this. The very poison, crafted from the seven-colored flower and formulated by her master, was initially intended for Xiao Nani. She had assumed her master had returned to treat her. Never had she imagined that her savior was Jin Peihuan. Clutching the blanket next to her, a myriad of emotions flitted across Lin Mingio's eyes. As for courtly affairs, Jin Peihuan was blissfully unaware. As dawn broke, Jiang Xijin pushed open the door to Jiang Peihuan's room. Observing her elder sister, who had just awakened, Jiang Xijin suggested gently, Elder sister, let's go to the city today and stroll around. I've been in the military camp all month, and one haven't been out for a long time. Jiang Peihuan didn't really want to go out, but she couldn't resist Jiang Saijin's persistence, and finally nodded in agreement. They both boarded a carriage and left the general's mansion. Once on the streets, Jiang Sijin didn't want to stay in the carriage any longer, and she started looking at the street stalls. Jiang Sijin was sampling food from every stall she passed. Soon, Yuer's hands were full of various snacks. Seeing Jiang Sijin still wanting to buy more, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but comment, "Are you planning to bring the whole street back home?" With Jiang Peihuan's intervention, Jiang Sijin didn't buy any more food, but instead headed to the 100 Treasure Pavilion. Jiang Peihuan didn't like wearing jewelry, so she sat down on a chair and started observing the items inside the cabinet. She noticed a piece of jade. The jade was still in its raw form and hadn't been carved. Jiang Peihuan had always wanted to give something to Xiao Nani, considering the many gifts he had given her. Other than a dress, she hadn't given him anything in return. "Elder sister, what are you looking at?" Turning around, Jiang Sijin saw Jiang Peihuan staring at something in the cabinet and quickly approached her. "Young lady, are you interested in this jade?" The store manager, a sharp observer. When he saw Jian Peihuan's appearance, he knew that she had taken a fancy to this piece of jade and quickly went forward. Hearing him, Jiang Peihuan pointed to the jade and asked, "Is this jade for sale?" "Yes, it is." The store manager continued, "Young lady, this jade is of top-quality material. It was originally intended to be carved into a seal. However, our craftsman felt it would be better suited as a pendant. But carving it into a pendant would result in significant waste, so our boss decided to just display it as is. What he left unsaid was that if someone wanted it carved into a pendant, the loss would be on them." But Jiang Peihuan understood. The jade was pure white with a faint hint of red, indicating its excellent quality. Turning to the store manager, Jiang Peihuan softly inquired, "How much is this jade?" The manager responded, "Given its rarity, the jade carries a premium price tag of 50,000 taels. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool.com. Chapter 176. Jiang Peihuan gift a jade pendant, 50,000 taels? Are you trying to rob me? Before Jiang Peihuan could even respond to the store manager's quote, Jiang Xian, with fiery eyes, glared at him in indignation. "Third miss, you might not be aware, but this jade is genuinely rare. Just wrap it up for me." 11. Although the jade's price of 50,000 taels was not cheap, Jiang Peihuan felt that the quoted price wasn't too outrageous. She directly addressed the store manager. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's prompt decision, the manager's eyes brimmed with smiles. "Wait a moment, young lady. They'll have someone pack it for you." "Elder sister, you're spending 50,000 taels for this piece of rock? It's not even wearable. Why are you buying it?" "I have my reasons." Upon hearing this, Jiang Sijin refrained from saying anything more. After another round of shopping, they returned to the general's mansion. After returning to the plum garden, Jin Peihuan looked at Yuer and said, "Help me find a set of carving tools." "Eldest miss, do you plan to carve the jade?"
Yes.
"I'll get them right away." Yuer returned shortly after with a set of tools. The jade was about a finger's length. Jiang Peihuan started carving, and by the time she had outlined the pendant, half of the jade had already been wasted. Examining her handiwork, Jiang Peihuan recalled the pendant Xiao Nani typically wore and decided to engrave a bamboo pattern onto it. However, what she imagined and what she produced were quite different. 6 hours later, she stared at the not-so-perfect bamboo carving on the jade, a wave of frustration washing over her. While skilled in drawing, she realized that carving was an entirely different skill set. Staring at the arguably ugly jade pendant, Jiang Peihuan felt a bit helpless. "Eldest miss, perhaps you should take a break. You've been working on this for quite some time," Yuer gently suggested. Upon hearing Yuer's words, Jiang Peihuan set down her tools, held up the jade pendant, and asked her, "Tell me honestly, is this pendant ugly?" Yuer, gazing at the pendant in Jiang Peihuan's hand, let out a soft chuckle. "Eldest miss, is this intended for Qingqing?" "Yes," Jiang Peihuan confirmed, giving a simple nod. Seeing her affirmation, Yuer's smile grew more pronounced. "As long as it's a creation of the eldest miss, One believe His Highness will cherish it. For 2 full days, Zhang Peihuan dedicated herself to refining the jade pendant. With each passing hour, her craftsmanship improved, enhancing the pendant's aesthetics. After a final assessment, she felt a measure of satisfaction. The pendant looked significantly better than its initial iteration. After much perseverance, the jade pendant was finally polished to a smooth finish. Lifting her head, Zhang Peihuan realized that it had grown dark outside. A feeling of unease settled in Zhang Peihuan's heart. Lately, Xiaonani had made it a routine to visit her every evening. Yet, including today, 3 days had gone by since their last meeting. Lost in her thoughts, she was jolted back to reality by Yu Er's respectful greeting. "Greetings, Your Highness. Where's Huan Er?" Xiaonani asked, his tone even, as he observed the bowing Yu Er. Yu Er took a step back, replying in a soft voice, "Eldest Miss is in her room." Acknowledging with a nod, Xiaonani proceeded to push open the door. The sudden sound made Zhang Peihuan turn instinctively. "Why are you here?" she blurted out upon seeing Xiaonani. He offered a faint smile and replied, "Did you miss me over the past 2 days?" Zhang Peihuan's face remained impassive, but Xiaonani could sense the faint warmth in her voice. However, she responded with a slight glare. Nevertheless, she poured him a cup of tea, placing it before him, and gently inquired, "Has there been any decision in Rhe court?" Taking a sip, Xiaonani answered, "Huan Er. He'll be leading the troops into battle tomorrow." Tomorrow? Zhang Peihuan wasn't surprised about Xiaonani's military role, but she hadn't expected it to be so soon. He nodded and continued, "King Chu Jiang has rebelled. If we wait too long, neighboring vassals might get restless. We need to resolve this quickly." "Huan Er, I came tonight for 2 reasons," he continued. "Firstly, to bid you farewell, and secondly, to inform you that if this campaign extends beyond 2 months, our wedding might be delayed." "T understand," Zhang Peihuan responded with a nod. Seeing no trace of resentment in her gaze, Xiaonani looked somewhat contrite. "If I can't make it back in time, I'll personally apologize to your parents." "There's no need for apologies. It's not your fault." Looking into his eyes, Zhang Peihuan showed a soft smile. "Xiaonani, haven't you forgotten? Both my parents are from the military. They understand you better than anyone." His expression lightened with a smile, but it soon faded as he gravely added, "Be wary of Xiao Juanhao after one leave." A few days ago, he was ambiguous about Chu Jiangqing's rebellion, but today, he's strongly advocating for war. I suspect he has ulterior motives. Hearing this, a thoughtful look crossed Zhang Peihuan's face. Seeing Xiaonani's concern, she reassured him, "Don't worry, I'll be cautious. While I'm in the general's mansion, he can't really harm me. After all, the people in the mansion are no pushovers." Interrupting the somber mood, she announced, "I have a gift for you." At the mention of a gift, Xiaonani's curiosity was instantly kindled. Zhang Peihuan then presented the jade pendant she had carved. She initially planned to give it to him at a later time, but since he's departing tomorrow, she decided to give it now. Receiving the jade pendant, Xiaonani's eyes lit up with surprise. "Is this for me?" Zhang Peihuan was initially worried since Xiaonani typically used nothing but the best. However, seeing his delighted reaction, she felt relieved. But as she looked at Xiaonani, she softly said, "My carving skills aren't that good, so, did you carve this yourself?" Before Zhang Peihuan could finish, Xiaonani interrupted her with a gentle question. Seeing her nod, the smile in his eyes deepened even more. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 177. Expedition in front of Zhang Peihuan. The man took off the jade pendant from his waist, and then put on the pendant that Zhang Peihuan had carved. "This was carved by your own hands, Huan Er. It's more precious than any treasure in the world." While speaking, he gently touched the jade pendant on his waist. "I wasn't sure about the design you'd like, so one chose this bamboo pattern. Do you like it?" "I love it. I really do." As soon as Zhang Peihuan spoke, Xiaonani quickly added, "By the way, your elder brother is also joining this expedition." "My elder brother is going too?" It was only then that Xiaonani remembered this matter, and Jiang Paihuan's eyes widened in surprise. If Jiang Ailong were the one going on the expedition, Jiang Peihuan wouldn't have been so surprised. But she couldn't understand why Emperor Qiming would send Jiang Changbai along with Xiao Nani. Perhaps sensing her confusion, Xiao Nani whispered, "Even though your father has handed over his military seal, Imperial Brother still has his reservations. The great general's fame outside is already high. Unless necessary, the Imperial Brother wouldn't let him lead expeditions. But Imperial Brother also doesn't want your father to be displeased, so sending your elder brother is the best solution. Plus, I'm the main commander for this expedition, so Imperial Brother is at ease." Hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Jiang Paihuan's eyes were filled with a mix of emotions, complexity, and helplessness. Throughout her past and present life, the Jiang family has been loyal to Emperor Qiming, yet he never truly trusted them. In this life, influenced by her, Jiang Hong handed over his military seal early. Jiang Peihuan thought this would set the emperor's mind at ease, but it didn't. But understanding an emperor's heart is a challenge. Seeing Jiang Paihu in silence, Xiao Nani, thinking she was worried about Jiang Changbai, softly reassured, "Don't worry. Your elder brother has been in the army for years. He will be fine. Since you're leaving for the expedition tomorrow, you probably have a lot to handle tonight. You should return to your mansion." Xiao Nani wanted to spend more time with Jiang Peihuan since he didn't know when he would return. But hearing her clear hint to leave, he nodded in agreement. After Xiao Nani left, Jiang Peihuan went to Jiang Shangbai's courtyard. Jiang Hong and Shui Yin had just arrived. Seeing them, Jiang Peihuan quickly went up and greeted, "Father, Mother, Huan Heir, you're here. Do you know about the expedition tomorrow?" Hearing Jiang Hong's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded. "Don't worry, Huan Heir. Your big brother will surely protect King Cheng." Seeing the worry in Jiang Paihuan's eyes, Jiang Changbua smiled and said. On hearing this, Jiang Peihuan immediately said, "Elder brother, during this expedition, one just hope you can protect yourself." After all, Xiao Nani was the younger brother of Emperor Qiming. Jiang Peihuan believed that nothing would happen to him. But for Jiang Changbai, this time he's not leading the Jiang family troops, so she's worried. "Aunt, uncle, how about one go with Changbai this time?" Suddenly, Xueqi spoke. Over the past few days in Jingdo, Xueqi had mostly been with Jiang Changbai at the military camp. When he heard Jiang Changbai was being sent on an expedition, his first reaction was to join. But hearing Xueqi's words, Shui Yin immediately refused. "No, Aunt. I said no, and that's final. This is a battlefield, not a vacation. What if something happens to you? How will one face your grandmother and your parents?" Hearing this, Xueqi closed his mouth in silence. "Elder brother, I've prepared some items for you. Take them all with you." Jiang Peihuan handed the things she had prepared to Jiang Changbai. "What's in here?" Jiang Changbai asked as he took them. "Some medicine for injuries and some health pills. These are valuable items." After giving the items to Jiang Changbai, Jiang Peihuan left. She knew that Jiang Hong and Shui Yin still had much to tell Jiang Changbai. As she left Jiang Shangbai's yard, she saw Lu Er pacing anxiously. "Lu Er, what are you doing?" Seeing Lu Er, Yu Er frowned and asked. Hearing the voice, Lu Er hurriedly approached and, after scanning the surroundings, whispered to Jiang Peihuan, "Eldest miss, Aunt May is pregnant. Are you sure?" During this time, Jian Mei had been staying obediently at the general's mansion. Jiang Peihuan had always asked Lu Er to monitor Jian Mei. Hearing this news, Jiang Peihuan looked concerned. Lu Er nodded and whispered, "They've already consulted the doctor. She is indeed pregnant." "Eldest miss, why didn't Aunt May inform the old madam about her pregnancy and instead secretly called the doctor?" Yu Er asked. After a moment of silence, Jiang Peihuan replied, "Keep this quiet for now. Pretend you don't know." Jiang Peihuan then instructed Lu Er, "Continue watching and inform me of any updates." "Understood, eldest Mississippi." Lu Er responded, and then left immediately. Fong Garden. In Aunt Mai's room, Aunt. Should we really not inform the old madam? The maid was puzzled. She believed that pregnancy was a joyous event, but she didn't see any signs of happiness on Jian Mai's face. "We shouldn't tell anyone," Jian Mei responded, touching her belly with mixed emotions. She was bearing a child from the Jiang family, her adversaries. The child was innocent. Would she really consider harming the baby? That night, many in the general's mansion had restless nights. The next day, outside the city, returned soon. "They'll await your report," Emperor Qiming said, handing a wine cup to Xiao Nani. After drinking the wine, Xiao Nani replied, "Imperial brother, rest assured. I'll bring back the head of King Chujiang." "Good, I'll be waiting." Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Emperor Qiming's eyes lit up with a smile. It was unexpected for many that Emperor Qiming personally bid farewell to Xiao Nani as he left for the expedition. With the emperor present, all the officials naturally had to attend. All eyes were on Xiao Nani, dressed in armor, with various emotions. Among the crowd, only Xiao Juanhao wore a somber expression. He stepped forward, saying with a sly smile, "Imperial uncle, I'm confident you'll return triumphant." "Thanks for your kind words," Xiao Nani replied, maintaining his composure in front of the emperor. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 178. Want to abort the child during the conversation? He kept looking beyond the crowd, but never saw that familiar figure. Han Feng stood beside Xiao Nanyi, aware of whom his master was searching for. But eldest Miss Jiang never showed up. After some thought, Han Feng stepped forward and said softly, "Master, it's almost time. Imperial brother, I must go now." Upon hearing Han Feng's words, Xiao Nani bowed to Emperor Qiming and then bid a farewell. Emperor Qiming nodded in acknowledgement. Subsequently, Xiao Nanyi mounted his horse, looked over the vast army, and loudly commanded, "Move out." The huge army of 100,000 moved in majestic unison, with Xiao Nani leading the way. Holding the reins with one hand, he gently caressed a jade pendant with the other. This very pendant was a gift from Jiang Peihuan the previous night. Suddenly, an excited voice from Han Feng reached his ears, "Master, it's eldest Miss Jiang." Hearing the voice, Xiao Nani subconsciously looked up and saw Jiang Peihuan sitting on the back of the Lai Feng from afar. Yi Xiao, riding beside Jiang Peihuan. Seeing the army coming from afar, she said softly, "Eldest Miss, His Highness is here." With a single glance, Jiang Peihuan recognized Xiao Nani in the lead. Dressed in full military regalia, this was her first time seeing Xiao Nani so attired. This outfit made him appear even more stern. However, the moment he saw her, the man's eyes instantly softened. Quickly, Xiao Nani rode up to her side. Zhang Changbai wanted to approach as well, but Han Feng held him back and said, "Young general, have some pity on my master. He's been desperately waiting to see eldest Miss Jiang." Zhang Changbai just rolled his eyes in response and didn't advance. Reaching Jiang Peihuan's side, Xiao Nani gazed tenderly at her. "I thought you wouldn't come." Today, with the emperor and all the officials present, one didn't want to be in the midst of the crowd. "So, I arrived here early." As they talked, Jiang Peihuan handed over a white porcelain bottle. As he reached for it, she whispered, "This medicine is my own creation, beneficial for vitality and blood circulation." The ingredients for this medicine were acquired from Xiao Juanhao. She knew Xiao Nani wouldn't be lacking in ordinary medicine, so she prepared something special for heart circulation. Securing the bottle carefully, Xiao Nani smiled, "Rest assured, I will return safely. When I do, it will be our wedding." Hearing the man's words, Jiang Peihuan fell silent. After a while, she looked up and nodded with a smile. At that moment, Zhang Changbai approached. "Huan Er, elder brother, I won't be home, so we'll have to trouble you." Zhang Changbai felt guilty. As the eldest son, he should be protecting the Jiang family, but it seemed the responsibility always fell on Jiang Peihuan. Hearing Zhang Shangbai's words and seeing the expression in his eyes, Jiang Peihuan smiled and said, "Elder brother, the children of the Jiang family stand united." Looking at Xiao Nanyi and Jiang Changbai, she added, "They'll wait for your return in the capital." The two men nodded at the young lady on horseback. A moment later, the army continued to advance. Only when the army was out of sight did Yi Xiao say, "Eldest miss, let's head back." "Okay." Upon Yishao's suggestion, Jiang Peihuan nodded and rode directly towards the general's mansion. As they neared the entrance, they saw Yu waiting. Seeing Jiang Peihuan, Yu quickly approached, saying, "Eldest Miss, Aunt May has instructed to prepare abortion medicine." "When?" "An hour ago." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan quickly dismounted and rushed towards Fong Garden, instructing, "Inform grandmother. And also, remember to tell second uncle and second aunt." "Understood, eldest Mississippi." At that time, Jiang Peihuan directly ran to Jian Mai's courtyard. As Jiang Peihuan pushed the door open, she saw Jian Mei taking a bowl of medicine from a maid. Seeing the medicine, Jian Mai's eyes showed mixed feelings. "What are you doing?" Jian Mei was startled by Jiang Peihuan's sudden appearance. However, upon seeing her, she sneered, "I feel unwell and am taking medicine. Is that your business? Is that abortion medicine in your hand?" Without waiting, Jiang Peihuan stepped forward. Seeing this, Jian Mei tried to drink the medicine, but Jiang Peihuan quickly grabbed her wrist and took the bowl away. She sniffed the medicine, confirming it was indeed abortion medicine. Seeing that her medicine had been snatched away by Jiang Peihuan, Jian Mai's eyes burned with anger. "Give it back to me. Aunt May, the child in your stomach is the blood of the Jiang family. You have no right to decide whether he stays or leaves." "What a joke. The child is in my stomach. If I don't want to give birth to him, who can do anything to me?" "You wicked woman." At this moment, old Madame Jiang also walked in, holding Nanny Zu's hand, followed by Jiang Yuan and Zhou Rongfang. Seeing the scene, Jiang Yuan asked in disbelief, "You're pregnant?" Before Jian Mei could reply, Jiang Yuan said coldly, "Why are you trying to abort the child?" When he heard the maid mention that Jian Mei was pregnant, Jiang Yuan's heart filled with joy. Among the 3 branches of the Jiang family, he was the only one without a son. After so many years, Zhou Rongfang hadn't been pregnant again. He had resigned himself to having only one daughter, Jiang Ruyun. Now, learning that Jian Mei was pregnant, he was hopeful for a son. But hearing she intended to take abortion medicine made him furious. Zhou Rongfang's eyes were filled with complicated emotions. During this time, Jiang Yuan had not visited Jian Mei. She was ready to forgive him and move on. But now, this happened. If there was one thing Zhou Rongfang felt guilty about regarding her relationship with Jiang Yuan, it was that she had not given him a son. Old Madame Jiang looked at Jian Mei with a gloomy expression. "Jian Mei, I don't care what you think. Since you are already Yuan heir's wife, the child in your belly is the blood of the Jiang family. You have no right to abort this child." Old Madame Jiang's words felt like the last straw for Jian Mei. She looked at those before her and said with a dark expression, "The Jiang family values its own flesh and blood so much. Why can't you cherish the lives of others?" "What do you mean by that?" Hearing Jian Mei's words, old Madame Jiang frowned. Yet, Jian Mei, seeing the expression in her eyes, revealed a mocking smile. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 179. Kill Xiao Nani at all cost. She turned to look at Jiang Yuan with cold eyes. "Jiang Yuan, didn't you tell the Jiang family that my father saved your life?" "My father died because he saved you. My Jin family suffered because of the Jiang family." During her time with the Jiang family, Jian Mei dreamt every night of hurting them, but she could never bring herself to do it. And now, she was pregnant. She couldn't harm the Jiang family, but she refused to give birth to the child of her enemy. Upon hearing this, old Madame Jiang's eyes filled with confusion. She looked at Jian Mei, asking, "What are you saying?" "I'm not making things up, old madam. Why don't you ask your son?" "Yes, your father saved Jiang Yuan, but you're unaware that Jiang Yuan also saved your entire family." "Father." As Jiang Hong approached, Jiang Peihuan quickly stepped forward to greet him with a bow. Jiang Hong nodded in acknowledgement and then said to Jian Mei, "When you were 10, due to your father's negligence, military rations were stolen. By the laws of the Qi Kingdom, that's a crime punishable by death." Jiang Yuan risked his life to retrieve the stolen rations. Though he succeeded, the emperor began to dislike him. For many years, he's been nothing more than a 5th-grade official. "This can't be true," Jian Mai's eyes widened in disbelief at Jiang Hong's words. Jiang Peihuan softly told Jian Mei, Aunt Mei, if you investigate, you'll see if this is true or false. Also, your younger brother is still alive. That's impossible. Ayao died in that fire. Years ago, after hearing of their father's demise, her mother set their house on fire. Jian Mei survived only because she was playing outside at the time. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's claim about her brother, Jian Mei didn't believe it, but hope filled her eyes. Jiang Peihuan gestured towards Yishao. Shortly after, Yishao entered with a boy of about 8 or 9 years. The boy seemed unfamiliar but had a clear gaze. Tears welled up in Jian Mai's eyes upon seeing him. He bore a striking resemblance to her father. All Yao, she tried to approach, but the boy evaded her. Pain showed in her eyes. All Yao, I'm your sister. Don't you recognize me? Before Jian Mei could advance further, Jiang Peihuan intervened. He's been raised by the Ming family these years. He doesn't remember you. The Ming family? Wasn't it Ming Yi who sent you here? Before Jian Mei could respond, Jiang Peihuan continued, one only learned of this recently. Your brother didn't die in the fire. A nanny rescued him, and the Ming family hid him. But why would Uncle Ming do that? He was my father's trusted friend. He might have been close to my father, but he still poisoned my older brother during a battle. Jian Mei was taken aback by Jiang Peihuan's revelation. She was aware of Ming Yi's act of poisoning Jiang Changbai and knew Prince Qing was behind it. Jiang Yuan, speak to her. Jiang Hong directed his words to his brother, then assisted old Madame Jiang out of Jian Mai's room. As they exited, Jian Mai's cries filled the air. Father, did you know about Jian Mai's true identity? After settling the old madam in the chrysanthemum hall, Jiang Peihuan posed the question to her father. Jiang Hong nodded in confirmation. After a brief pause, he told Jiang Peihuan, I let her stay with the Jiang family to provide her shelter. Father, how do you plan to deal with Ming Yi? Upon hearing this, Jiang Hong's eyes revealed a hint of pain and discomfort. Before the incident with Jiang Changbai, he had always considered Ming Yi as his own brother. Ming Yi was almost a regular guest at the general's mansion. After a while, Jiang Hong looked at Jiang Peihuan and said, Huan I know you worry that one might be too lenient, but rest assured, I won't risk the entire Jiang family's lives. I'll handle Ming Yi myself. Jiang Peihuan wanted to say more, but seeing the sadness in Jiang Hong's eyes, she simply nodded. Having memories from her past life, she knew that because of Ming Yi and Xiao Juanhao, the entire Jiang family had been wiped out. So, she deeply resented Ming Yi. However, Jiang Hong's resentment towards Ming Yi was not as intense as Jiang Peihuan's. Unknown to Jiang Peihuan, at that moment, Ming Yi was in Xiao Junhao's palace, discussing how to deal with Xiao Nani. Looking at the person seated at the main seat, Ming Yi said directly, Your Highness, I will depart for Jiangzhou immediately. This time, I will ensure Xiao Nani doesn't return. You must ensure no one finds out about this. If news of his collusion with King Chujiang to harm Xiao Nani leaked, he would be doomed. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Ming Yi quickly nodded. Your Highness, rest assured, no one else will know. Even if things go wrong, they'll take full responsibility and not involve you. You are my man. I won't let you face danger alone, so be careful. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Ming Yi's eyes revealed gratitude. He then left the mansion. After Ming Yi's departure, Pei Wu approached Xiao Juanhao. Your Highness, can Ming Yi really eliminate King Cheng? By himself, it's difficult. But there's more than one person after Xiao Nani. Thinking of that person, Xiao Juanhao smiled. In the palace, at Xinang Hall, the great Empress Dowager looked at the man in black kneeling before her and coldly ordered, Go to Jiangzhou immediately and kill Xiao Nani at all costs. This man in black was a shadow guard left to the great Empress Dowager by the late emperor. Most of her guards had been killed by Xiao Nani, leaving only a few. Hearing her command, the man hesitated. Your Highness, if we kill King Cheng, Jiangzhou might fall into chaos. Perhaps King Chujiang will. Is Xiao Nani the only one who can lead troops? Isn't the eldest son of the Jiang family also there? If Xiao Nani dies, let him handle things. If that doesn't work, send all the military generals to Jiangzhou. In any case, That traitor Xiao Nani must be killed. The mere mention of Xiao Nani made the great Empress Dowager's eyes blaze with anger. The man in black wanted to say more, but in the end, he shut his mouth and bowed. Yes. Then he left Sinang Hall. An elderly nanny approached the great Empress Dowager. Your Highness, are you rushing things? Wasn't the plan to act after King Cheng's wedding? Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 180. No food supplies. I can't bear this weight any longer. If we don't take action now and wait for that cursed troublemaker to finish the battle, the Emperor might indulge him even more. When the great Empress Dowager voiced this sentiment, a cold fierceness glinted in her eyes. The old nanny beside her intended to comment, but upon glimpsing the resolve in the great Empress Dowager's eyes, she chose to remain silent. Due to King Chujiang's rebellion, a tense quiet enveloped the Qi kingdom. Since both Xiao Nani and Jiang Changbai were dispatched to the front lines, the entire general's mansion was in suspense, awaiting news. Yet, 10 days had elapsed since the troops departed, and no word had reached them from the front. Jiang Xijin, too, had returned to the military camp. Early in the morning, Jiang Peihuan went to Yinlin Garden. She had intended to join Shui Yin for breakfast, but nearing the entrance, she was met with the fiery rage in Jiang Hong's voice. These peoples, they're nothing but parasites. The emperor hasn't issued a statement. Best hold your tongue. How can one stay silent? Changbai is still in combat, and King Cheng, leading this campaign, is without supplies. How are they expected to wage war? Although Jiang Hong harbored reservations about the marriage between Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan, he genuinely respected Xiao Nani as a person. Thus, with such a calamity befalling the court, his soldier's heart burned with fury. Father, mother, Jiang Peihuan gracefully entered the main hall, extending courtesies to the two elders. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Jiang Hong stopped cursing. A hint of a smile played on his lips. Huan heir, what brings you here? I assumed you'd be visiting the military camp today, father. So, I came to accompany mother for breakfast. Father, could you clarify your comments about the grain? Previously, Jiang Hong refrained from discussing court matters with his children. However, recent events underscored to him that his eldest daughter was far from ordinary. Meeting Jiang Peihuan's inquisitive gaze, he whispered, 10 days ago, King Cheng and your elder brother led the troops, having only 5 days' worth of grain. They were assured of subsequent supplies, but 10 days have now passed, and the Ministry of Revenue remains unable to furnish the grain. And the emperor? How would he address this? After all, Xiao Nani is his brother, his bloodkin. Were it anyone else, perhaps the emperor's concern might wane. However, Jiang Peihuan personally witnessed Emperor Qi Ming's fondness for Xiao Nani. Jiang Hong's eyes clouded with a mix of frustration and resignation. The emperor is anxious every day, but the national treasury is empty. He has no choice. There were only 5 days' worth of rations, but Xiao Nani and the others had already set off for 10 days. Traditionally, in battles between two forces, securing food supplies took precedence. With thoughts of Xiao Nani and Jiang Changbai weighing on her, Jiang Peihuan's eyes brimmed with deep concern. Jiangzhou, inside the military camp. Your Highness, without any food today, our soldiers will not endure. Since their arrival in Jiangzhou, the camp's meals were reduced to thin porridge, the kind where rice grains were barely visible. Today, there wasn't even rice for that. Seated, Xiao Nanya's face had lost its color. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. He absent-mindedly fingered a jade pendant, the same one Jiang Peihuan gifted him. Upon hearing the concern, Xiao Nani questioned, "Where is the young general? Your Highness?" Before Xiao Nani could elaborate, Jiang Changbai entered, drawing the curtain behind him. Jiang Changbai, too, looked troubled. He had spent years in the army, but this scarcity was unprecedented. Recognizing him, Xiao Nani inquired, "Have you gathered the information?" Jiang Changbai nodded. "Indeed. It seems King Chujiang has stored most of the grain in his palace. However, a portion remains in the granary by the docks outside the city. Tonight, Well, raid the docks and seize the grain, declared Xiaonani. Understood. Zhang Changbai had no objections to Xiaonan's decision. On the battlefield, it's kill or be killed. Without food, their troops would face starvation. Later that evening, Xiaonani, accompanied by Han Feng, left the camp. Turning to Zhang Changbai, he said, "During my absence, the camp's responsibilities are yours. Your wishes will be honored, Your Highness," Zhang Changbai affirmed. With a nod, Xiaonani departed. The Jingdo. Ever since she left Yanlin, Zhang Paihuan's mind was consumed with securing grain supplies. Yi Xiao summoned Deputy General Liu. Understood. Soon after, Deputy General Liu entered the plum garden. As he prepared to offer his respects, Zhang Peihuan cut to the chase. "Deputy General Liu, I want you to use this money to acquire grain. Eldest Miss, the commoners have sufficient grain at the moment. Despite having money, many are reluctant to sell it. No matter. If they want sell for 1 coin, offer 2. While speaking, Zhang Peihuan handed Deputy General Liu a stack of silver notes. These were the reparations from Huainan Mansion, initially given to her and Xiaonani in gold. The funds could now be utilized to buy the much-needed grain. We should also consider checking the grain stores within the city. Eldest Miss, young Master Liu and Miss Liu have arrived." Before Zhang Peihuan could finish her sentence, Yu Er made her entrance. After a brief exchange with Deputy General Liu, her gaze shifted to the entrance. Liu Hao and Liu Xian were brought in by Yu Er. "Sister Jiang, Eldest Miss Jiang." Upon spotting Zhang Peihuan, the Liu siblings promptly approached to pay their respects. Zhang Peihuan stepped forward, assisting Liu Xian to her feet. "Xian heir, what brings you here today? Are you visiting third aunt?" "Sister Jiang, we're not here for our aunt today. We came to see you." "For me." Lu Xin's words clouded Zhang Peihuan's eyes with confusion. Sensing her bewilderment, Liu Hao advanced, speaking softly, "Miss Jiang, am aware of the court's current grain shortage. Our Liu family possesses a stock of 100,000 tons of grain. We wish to donate this to the army." "Cousin Liu, such a gesture is no small matter. Is this a mutual decision between you and Xian heir, or is it influenced by Uncle Liu?" In these times, 100,000 tons of rice was even more precious than 100,000 gold. "Rest assured, eldest Miss Jiang, this decision stems from my father. Why didn't he approach the emperor directly? Why seek me?" Being imperial merchants, the Liu family had the privilege to meet the emperor personally. This detail deepened Zhang Peihuan's intrigue. Liu Xian intervened. "Sister Jiang, our intent is for the grain to sustain our troops, not to be squandered among the court officials. However, if the supplies were handed over directly to Emperor Qiming, their actual destination remained uncertain." Though Lu Xin's implications were subtle, Zhang Peihuan grasped the underlying message. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 181. Request to escort the grain after some thought. Zhang Peihuan whispered, "Xian heir, on behalf of the army soldiers, I thank you. Let me handle this matter." "Very well, Sister Jiang. We will await your update." Understood. Once the Liu siblings were sent to Elegant Garden, Zhang Peihuan took Yi Xiao and departed. "Yi Xiao, are you familiar with the location of the Princeton Mansion?" "Yes, I am. Take me to Princeton." "As you wish." Upon leaving the general's mansion, Zhang Peihuan, with Yi Xiao, headed straight to Prince An's mansion. Xiao Junmo was coincidentally at home. Hearing that Miss Jiang, the eldest daughter of the Jiang family, sought an audience, he promptly had her ushered in. Xiao Junmo awaited in the main hall. As Zhang Peihuan entered, he swiftly approached. "Eldest Miss Jiang, to what do I owe the pleasure of your visit to my mansion? Is there a matter at hand?" Zhang Peihuan advanced, offering a formal bow, then murmured, "Your Highness, I am here today with an urgent request." "What is it? Tell me. As long as it's within my power, you have my assistance." "I wish to meet with the Emperor. Can your Highness escort me into the palace?" "You seek an audience with Imperial Father?" "Eldest Miss Jiang, might one inquire the purpose of your visit?" After briefly outlining the grain issue, Jiang Peihuan added, I intend to supply the army directly with 100,000 tons of grain. However, the emperor must be informed. Upon hearing this, Xiao Junmo promptly concurred, Eldest Miss Jiang, allow me to introduce you to the emperor. Follow me. Being the youngest prince, Xiao Junmo was bestowed by Emperor Qi Ming with the unique privilege of unhindered access to the imperial palace. Even accompanied by Jiang Peihuan, none dared to stop Xiao Junmo. It wasn't until they reached Chengqian Palace that Xiao Junmo turned to Jian Peihuan, gently instructing, Eldest Miss Jiang, I shall speak with my imperial father first. Please wait here.
Yes.
Upon Xiao Junmo's departure, Jiang Peihuan spotted Xiao Juanhao exiting with a radiant smile. However, upon noticing Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Junhao's mirth vanished. Why are you here? Greetings, Prince Qing. Rather than answering Xiao Junhao's inquiry, Jiang Peihuan gracefully bowed. Despite her internal disdain for the man before her, she acknowledged the solemnity of the palace and accorded the necessary respect. Jiang Peihuan, 1 a.m. asking you a question. Did you not hear? Prince Qing, it was Princeton who invited me. A hint of scorn flashed across Xiao Junhao's eyes, clearly skeptical of Jiang Peihuan's claim. Just as he was about to speak, Xiao Junmo walked over with a smile in his eyes. He waved at Jiang Peihuan and said excitedly, Miss Jiang, come quickly. Imperial father has agreed to see you. Without sparing Xiao Juanhao another glance, Jiang Peihuan proceeded directly into Qinqing Hall. This humble servant pays her respects to your majesty. Walking to the table, Jiang Peihuan knelt down, offering a deep bow to Emperor Qi Ming. Observing the person kneeling before him, Emperor Qi Ming remarked calmly, Princeton has informed me that you bear important news. What is it? Your Majesty, the Liu family wishes to present King Cheng with 100,000 tons of grain as a testament to their loyalty as imperial merchants. However, they are uncertain about delivering this grain to the military and thus approached me for assistance. I too am uncertain about ensuring the safe delivery of this vast amount of grain to our troops, which is why one sought an audience with you. Jiang Peihuan's voice notably emphasized her intent to deliver every grain without loss. Hearing this, a wave of surprise flashed across Emperor Qi Ming's eyes, swiftly followed by a glimmer of joy, which just as quickly vanished. Directing his gaze at the still kneeling Jiang Peihuan, the emperor inquired, You're here because you fear the court ministers will misappropriate the Liu family's grain, correct? Indeed, your majesty, Jiang Peihuan confirmed without hesitation. Taken aback by her frankness, Emperor Qi Ming remarked coolly after a brief pause, You seem bolder than your father. This humble servant would not dare. Enough of pretenses. One gather that you wish to send the grain directly to the army, avoiding any interference from the court. The question then remains, who will oversee this transport? Your father? No, your majesty. She shook her head, then raised it to meet the emperor's gaze, stating, I volunteer to personally escort the military supplies. You? The emperor echoed, clearly surprised. Yes, she affirmed, her eyes unwavering, their gazes locked, hers full of determination, his laden with conflict. Trusting such a significant task to Jiang Peihuan wasn't a decision made lightly. However, her intentions were clear. The grain was meant for Xiao Nani and Jiang Changbai, and she wouldn't allow anyone else to intervene. Jiang Peihuan, are you aware of the dire consequences if any mishap befalls the grain transport? Should the grain face any misfortune under my watch, I am prepared to pay the ultimate price. Very well. If you are bold enough to make such a pledge, then I shall entrust you with this task. The 100,000 tons of grain will be under your protection. Your Majesty, I have one more request. And what might that be? Although I am but a woman, one have been trained in martial arts since childhood and have accompanied my father into battle. This time in Jiangzhou, I wish to join my brother on his campaign. Upon the army's return, I shall head back to the capital. I've heard you sustained injuries in a past battle, leaving lingering ailments. Concern flickered in Emperor Qi Ming's eyes. She bowed her head in gratitude, responding, Your concern warms my heart, Your Majesty. However, I assure you my health has since recovered. Since, I shall grant your wish. One await your return alongside Xiao Nani. Thank you, your majesty. Mention of Xiao Nani prompted Jiang Peihuan to offer a deep bow of respect. Shortly after, she exited the palace. Upon returning to the general's mansion, an imperial edict from Emperor Qi Ming awaited her. The decree conferred upon Jiang Peihuan the esteemed title of general, charging her with the safe escort of the grain and to accompany the departing troops. Zhang Hong and Shui Yan were informed just as Jiang Peihuan finished her preparations. Beholding her in full military attire, their eyes mirrored a complicated emotions. Huan heir, are you certain? Mother, worry not. I will return unscathed. Jiang Peihuan reassured, noting the worry in Shui Yan's eyes. Shui Yan sighed. It's best if we handle the grain transport ourselves. Huan heir, for this campaign, I bequeath command of the Flying Feathers Army to you. With those words, she handed a black command seal to Jiang Peihuan. The rhythmic march of soldiers soon echoed as a regiment arrayed themselves before her. Leading them were Lin Xiao and Wang Ying, both offering their salutes. At your command, Miss Jiang. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 182. Jiang Peihuan's departure. The Flying Feathers Army was established by Shui Yan. Despite its small size and being comprised entirely of women, each member was formidable. Under Shui Yan's leadership, they had garnered significant military achievements. However, once Zhang Hong relinquished his military power, the Flying Feathers Army became the Jiang family's ace up their sleeve. Jiang Peihuan, seeing the Flying Feathers Army before her, hesitated. Turning to Shui Yan, she softly said, Mother, while I'm transporting the grains, the Emperor has already dispatched soldiers. Perhaps you should keep the Flying Feathers Army close. Both your father and one are in the capital, safe from harm. Please, take the Flying Feathers Army with you. Huan heir, heed your mother's advice, Zhang Hong added in a low voice. Recognizing his intent, Jiang Peihuan nodded, taking the command seal offered to her. Checking the time, she addressed Zhang Hong and Shui Yan. Father, mother, it's getting late. One must depart. Very well. Huan heir, come back safely, old Madame Jiang, with teary eyes, implored as she gazed upon Jiang Peihuan in her military attire. The thought of her great-grandson facing peril in battle had been nerve-wracking enough. Now with Jiang Peihuan setting off, concern dominated the old madame's eyes. Acknowledging the old madame's anxiety, Jiang Peihuan approached, bowed deeply and assured, Grandmother, one promised to return safely. All right, my dear. I'll await your return, the old madame replied with palpable emotion. If Jiang Rian still felt that the Jiang family treated her differently from Jiang Peihuan in the past, then at this moment, she was very indifferent. Eldest sister was indeed stronger than her. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan responded with a reassuring smile. One trust you. After offering a respectful bow to the gathered crowd, Jiang Peihuan spurred her horse forward. The supplies were already at the Jiang Mansion's entrance, collected by soldiers from Emperor Qi Ming. Without further delay, Jiang Peihuan declared, Let's move out. With her command, the group promptly advanced towards Jiangzhou. Remembering that 10 days had passed since Xiao Nanyas incident, Jiang Peihuan felt a growing urgency. The journey from Jingdou to Jiangzhou would span 2 to 3 days. Fearing that the army wouldn't endure without supplies, she addressed her troops. Before King Cheng departed, their food supplies would last only 5 days. It's been 10 days since then, so we must hasten our pace. We understand, eldest miss. The person who spoke was Su Zhao. He was the vice commander of the Imperial Army and was also the person sent by Emperor Qi Ming to accompany Jiang Peihuan. Although Emperor Qi Ming had promised Jiang Peihuan to let her escort the grain, he still had to send someone to take over. Hearing Su Zhao's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded. As they sped on, the distant beat of hooves reached them. Yi Shao, close by, turned her head to identify the newcomer and whispered to Jiang Peihuan, Miss, it's the young master Shui. Following her gaze, Jiang Peihuan recognized Shui Qi approaching. She had wondered about his absence at the general's mansion earlier, only to realize Head secretly set out ahead. Pulling on her reins, she waited for Xueqi. Upon reaching her, before Jiang Peihuan could address him, Xueqi hurriedly spoke. I've informed my aunt and family. One couldn't let you undertake this journey alone. One must accompany you. Jiang Peihuan, with a mix of amusement and resignation, asked, would it matter if one objected? Seeing her expression, Xueqi grinned. Naturally, it wouldn't. In that case, I appreciate your company, Cousin Qi. All right. He laughed lightly, nodding in acknowledgement. Their brief exchange didn't impede the group's progress. In the beginning, the group moved quickly. However, by the time they reached the outskirts of the city, their pace had noticeably slowed. Why have we slowed down, Commander Su? Noticing the change in speed, Jiang Peihuan turned her gaze to Su Zhao. Su Zhao met her eyes, his own filled with a mix of embarrassment and helplessness. Eldest miss, he whispered, the men I've brought this time aren't accustomed to long marches. We've been on our feet for over 2 hours. They've reached their limits. He seemed somewhat chagrined as he continued, especially given that none of the women from the feathered army appeared fatigued. In stark contrast, the imperial soldiers Head brought were visibly struggling. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's brow furrowed. She remained silent for a moment, then instructed, allow the troops a brief rest. Thank you, eldest miss, Su Zhao expressed with gratitude. At Su Zhao's mention of rest, the exhausted imperial soldiers almost immediately collapsed onto the ground. Xueqi, standing beside Jiang Peihuan, looked on with barely concealed disdain. Such a display would earn nothing but scorn back in Qingzhou, he remarked dryly. Enough, Cousin Qi, Jiang Peihuan whispered. Worried that his comment might incite tensions, she shot him a cautionary glance. Chastened by Jiang Peihuan's look, Xueqi bit back any further comments. From where she stood on the city's outskirts, Jiang Peihuan's gaze traveled to the distant Jiangzhou. Her eyes mirrored deep concern. There had been no word from Jiangzhou, and Jiang Peihuan's anxiety for Xiaonani and Jiang Changbai grew. Jiangzhou, young general, the king and his men have returned, a voice reported. When Xiaonani left with his men last night, Jiang Changbai had been guarding Xiaonani's tent. He did not sleep for the entire night. When he heard the noise outside, Jiang Changbai immediately stood up. As soon as he lifted the curtain, Jiang Changbai saw the food on the horse. Although it wasn't much, only about 20 ton, it could at least allow the soldiers to hold on for another day. Xiaonani strode over, and Jiang Changbai quickly went up to him. Your Highness? Nodding at Jiang Changbai, Xiaonani looked at Lin Xingqian and said, ask the kitchen to cook all the food. Yes, Your Highness. As Lin Xingqian moved to execute the order, Jiang Changbai turned to Xiaonani, concern evident in his voice. Your Highness, we're out of food in the camp. Shouldn't we reserve some of this? Even if all of this food is cooked, it's only enough for today's food. There's no need to keep it. As he spoke, Xiaonani walked into the tent. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 183. Capturing someone from the Chujiang mansion. Jiang Changbai settled into the seat beside Xiaonani, glancing over before posing a question. Your Highness, did you encounter any resistance at the granary of King Chujiang's mansion last night?
Yes.
Seeing Xiaonani's affirmation, Jiang Changbai inquired further. What's the state of King Chujiang's forces? A shadow passed over Xiaonani's face as he looked back at Jiang Changbai, murmuring, they are formidable. This succinct response caused a hint of concern to appear in Jiang Shangbai's eyes. At this moment, Han Feng walked in with 2 bowls of porridge. He looked at the 2 people on the chairs and said softly, Master, young general, please eat first. He set the porridge on the table. Having not eaten for 2 days, both Xiaonani and Jiang Changbai instinctively reached for their bowls. Yet, Xiaonani paused to ask Han Feng, has everyone been given their portion? They all have, Han Feng reassured. Comforted by the response, Xiaonani began to eat. But he had barely finished when an urgent voice from outside alerted them. Your Highness, we are under attack. Exchanging a swift glance, both Xiaonani and Jiang Changbai left their seats. exiting the tent in haste. Without a word, Xiaonani headed in the direction of the disturbance. Han Feng was at his side, leading Zhue Yun, Xiao Nanya's steed. Quickly mounting, Xiaonani rallied his men to move out. As they neared the site of the commotion, the clashing of weapons became discernible. Lin Xingqian, it appeared, had already engaged the intruders. While Lin Xingqian had the upper hand against his immediate opponent, the defeated foe hastily retreated on horseback. Lin Xingqian moved to pursue, but Xiao Nanya's voice held him back. "Stop." Hearing this, Lin Xingqian reined in his horse, but the fleeing man dared a look back, eyes darkening with recognition and animosity. With evident rage in his posture, he accused, "It was you who raided our granary last night." Unfazed, Xiaonani replied after a brief pause, "You must be Jiang Han, King Chujiang's youngest son." Xiaonani was certain of his statement. Seeing this, the man's eyes widened in surprise. Jiang Han stared at Xiaonani, shocked. "How did you know?" Being the youngest son of King Chujiang, his existence was kept a secret. King Chujiang had concealed him to preserve the last vestige of his bloodline. It was a safeguard, ensuring that he could pass on his lineage. So, Jiang Han was taken aback when Xiaonani revealed his identity. A smirk played on Xiao Nanya's lips. "Now that you've come to me, I won't be holding back." His seemingly friendly demeanor sharply contrasted the steely resolve in his eyes. Swiftly, the confrontation escalated. "Capture him alive," Xiaonani commanded Lin Xingqian. "Understood." Lin Xingqian, being astute, had already understood Xiao Nanya's intentions. Upon hearing Xiao Nanya's statement, he didn't hesitate and spurred his horse onward. Jiang Han's escorts quickly shielded him. However, Lin Xingqian's entourage was equally formidable. In no time, both parties clashed in heated battle. "Young prince, escape while you can." When Jiang Han's side found themselves outmatched, they attempted to block Lin Xingqian, imploring their prince to flee. With a look of defiance, Jiang Han, seeing the unfolding chaos and heeding the advice of his subordinate, galloped away. At that moment, Xiaonani received a bow from Han Feng. With the distance increasing between them and Jiang Han's retreating figure, Xiaonani took aim. Releasing the arrow, it found its mark in Jiang Han's steed. Han Feng swiftly moved forward, pointing his arrow at Jiang Han's throat. "Young prince, I advise you not to move. My arrow does not have eyes. Hold your positions. Your prince in my grasp." Seeing Jiang Han captured, his soldiers hesitantly lowered their weapons. The sight of the captured Jiang Han elicited smiles from the soldiers in the camp. Back in their tent, Jiang Changbai and Xiaonani deliberated on the worth of their captive. "Your Highness, do you plan to use Jiang Han as a bargaining chip against King Chujiang?" Even though Jiang Han is King Chujiang's youngest son, the king wouldn't surrender just to save him. So, what purpose of capturing Jiang Han? He might not ensure King Chujiang's immediate surrender, but he could be traded for food supplies. After all, he's a prince of the Chujiang. Surely, he's worth some food supplies. Jiang Changbai chuckled at Xiao Nanya's remark, but his amusement soon gave way to concern. He broached, "Your Highness, if the capital doesn't send supplies soon, our situation will become dire." Grasping the seriousness, Xiaonani affirmed, "The supplies will be here within days." Xiaonani had faith in Emperor Qi Ming's assistance, although he hadn't expected the emissary to be Jiang Peihuan. On the outskirts of the capital, "Eldest miss, shall we rest for the night?" Seeing that nightfall was approaching, Su Zhao turned towards Jiang Peihuan. "We want rest now. We'll assess the situation later into the night." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Su Zhao's eyes brimmed with sadness, but he had no other options. All the imperial army showed their displeasure, yet none dared to voice their concerns. After all, they had all witnessed Jiang Peihuan's use of her whip firsthand. Seeing the looks on everyone's faces, Jiang Peihuan tightened her grip on her whip, her brow furrowed in concern. If she had anticipated this outcome, she would rather face the wrath of Emperor Qi Ming than not have the guards from her own family, the Jiangs, at her side. While Jiang Peihuan proceeded, chaos erupted at Prince Qing's mansion. "You're saying Jiang Peihuan is escorting the food supplies to Jiangzhou?" Shock filled Xiao Junhao's eyes as he gazed at Pei Wu, who knelt before him. Pei Wu had only just been informed. After all, Jiang Peihuan had only disclosed this to Emperor Qi Ming. Many court officials were still unaware. Upon hearing Xiao Junhao, Pei Wu nodded in confirmation. Xiao Junhao's hand clenched into a tight fist, a torrent of emotions swirling in his eyes. He had painstakingly ensured the Ministry of Revenue was short on grain. Without it, even Emperor Qi Ming was powerless. But never did Xiao Junhao expect Jiang Peihuan to procure such a supply and personally see it to Jiangzhou. Send someone. After a brief pause, Xiao Junhao directed his words to Pei Wu. Under any circumstances, that grain must not reach Jiangzhou. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 184. The Fear of Lin Mengyao. Yes, Your Highness, what about the eldest miss? Do not harm her. Only destroy the supplies. Xiao Junhao, after reflecting, advised gently. Outside the room, Lin Mingio's hand stilled. The words, "do not harm her," echoed repeatedly in her mind. She glanced involuntarily at the man's expression. Every time he mentioned Jiang Peihuan, his eyes swirled with complex emotions. A surge of anxiety gripped Lin Mengyao, causing her to clutch her maid's hand tightly. "Miss, are you all right? Let's return to the mansion." Before her maid could reply, Lin Mengyao cut her off and hastened back to the Lin mansion. Due to the previous poisoning incident at the feast, Lin Mengyao had been residing at the Prince Qing Palace. Her sudden return elicited mixed reactions from the Lin family, joy intertwined with concern. Ignoring everyone, Lin Mengyao headed straight to Lin Rahai's study. "Are you certain it was him?" Lin Rahai, with a grim expression, questioned his steward. Having served Lin Rahai for years, the steward knew his concerns well. He nodded affirmatively. "It's indeed Lin Xingchen." Hearing that name, Lin Rahai slumped into his chair. But within moments, determination glinted in his eyes. "Even if he returns, I'm not afraid." 1 a.m. charge on the Lin family now. A knock interrupted their conversation. With a wary expression, Lin Rahai inquired, "Who is it?" "Father, it's me." Relief washed over Lin Rahai upon recognizing Lin Mingio's voice. He signaled the steward to open the door. "Eldest Mississippi." Lin Mengyao, acknowledging the steward, and approached her Lin Rahai. "Father, get up." Gazing at his bowing daughter, Lin Rahai spoke softly. Once Lin Mengyao settled into a nearby chair, he continued, "Weren't you at the Qing mansion? Why the sudden return?" "Father, one returned with an urgent matter. I need your assistance." "What is it?" Lin Mengyao leaned in, whispering her request into his ear. Stunned, Lin Rahai stared at her. "You want me to send someone to kill Jiang Peihuan?" "Yes." "Why?" "Father, I'm not sure when it began, but Jiang Peihuan's influence over His Highness seems to be growing. We, the Lin family, have invested everything in His Highness. I will not allow anyone to threaten our position." At first, Lin Mengyao didn't truly intend to harm Jiang Peihuan. However, recent events made her acutely aware of the widening gap between them. If one day he truly fell for Jiang Peihuan, the thought alone was something Lin Mengyao neither dared to entertain nor risk. She resolved to quash this potential threat at its very inception. Lin Rahai had always perceived his daughter Mengyao as composed and gracious. This was the first time he detected a hint of jealousy in his eldest daughter's demeanor. Stepping forward, Lin Rahai placed a comforting hand on Lin Mingio's shoulder. Whispering, he reassured, "Yao heir, don't fret. They'll take care of Jiang Peihuan for you." "Thank you, father. But remember, His Highness mustn't learn of this." "Don't worry. One have it under control." A faint smile appeared in Lin Mingio's eyes as she walked out of Lin Rahai's study. Noticing the smile, the maid accompanying Lin Mengyao cautiously remarked, "Miss, His Highness isn't inclined to harm the eldest miss of the Jiang family. If he discovers our intentions, he might not take it well. As long as we can get rid of Jiang Peihuan, it doesn't matter even if His Highness resents us. Moreover, he would not know about this matter." The Qing mansion and the Lin family sent people to find Jiang Peihuan at the same time. Meanwhile, Zhang Peihuan remained oblivious to their intentions. In the dead of night, Zhang Peihuan instructed everyone to rest where they stood. Yi Xiao approached her, whispering, "Eldest miss, you should take a moment to rest as well." Zhang Peihuan nodded in acknowledgement. Understood. Though their journey weighed on her mind, Zhang Peihuan couldn't allow herself to fall into a deep sleep. So, when a rustling reached her ears, she instantly awoke. "Eldest miss, we have company," Yi Xiao, ever the alert secret guard, whispered. Both Wang Ying and Lin Xiao were also roused. The three promptly converged beside Zhang Peihuan. Suddenly, a peculiar sound echoed, and fiery arrows streaked toward them, landing amidst their grain supplies. Witnessing the fiery assault, a shadow cast over Zhang Peihuan's expression. "Lin Xiao, Wang Ying, rally the Flying Feathers army to guard our supplies." "Understood." "Su Zhao, at your service, eldest Mississippi. Have all the Imperial Army soldiers disperse and defend against the enemy." "Affirmative." "Yi Xiao, come with me." Without delay, Zhang Peihuan mounted her horse. Yi Xiao was quick to join her side. Following the direction of the arrow, Zhang Peihuan led Yi Xiao to ride forward. Soon, they saw a group of people waiting there. She took out a porcelain bottle and looked at it. Zhang Peihuan's eyes were filled with complicated emotions. These people were obviously following orders. Zhang Peihuan was not willing to use these poisons on them. Yet, seeing the steadily burning grain, any prior hesitations melted away from her countenance. Looking at Yi Xiao, Zhang Peihuan said, "Yi Xiao, I'll throw the bottle over, and you break it immediately." "As you command, eldest Mississippi." When she saw Yi Xiao nod, Zhang Peihuan threw the porcelain bottle in her hand at the people who were shooting arrows. Then, Yi Xiao threw the dagger in her hand, and the porcelain bottle instantly broke into pieces. The night wind blew, and a fragrance instantly filled the air. When the fragrance dispersed, the archers fell from their horses and wailed. The leader of the archer instinctively cast his gaze upon Zhang Peihuan. He trained his arrow directly on Zhang Peihuan, but before he could release it, he was overcome with dizziness and collapsed to the ground. "Young miss, shall we execute these men?" "There's no need. Spare their lives." With that, Zhang Peihuan made her way back. A significant amount of grain had been consumed by the flames. As she surveyed the scorched grain, Zhang Peihuan's eyes brimmed with sorrow. Turning to Su Zhao, Zhang Peihuan spoke decisively, "Commander Su, it isn't wise to linger here any longer. Let's move on." "Yes, eldest Mississippi." The fatigue weighed heavily on the Imperial Guards, yet after the recent turn of events, none dared voice their complaints, particularly since Zhang Peihuan, by her lone effort, had thwarted the incident. The guards' perception of her changed entirely. Zhang Peihuan swiftly mounted her horse, gripping the reins of Lai Feng tightly. However, not long after they left, a group of men in black rushed out. "Guard the grains." Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 185. Attacked. Upon seeing these people, Zhang Peihuan's immediate thought was to safeguard the grains. Yet, she quickly realized that they weren't there for the supplies, but for her. Because those men in black directly unsheathed their swords, aiming straight at Zhang Peihuan. With a swift movement, she drew her long whip from her waist, flicking her wrist to strike the man before her. Yi Xiao, Wang Ying, and others were quick to back her up. Protect the eldest Mississippi. The Flying Feathers army was established by Shui Yan. To them, Zhang Peihuan held more value than any supply of grain. As for Yi Xiao, she was only thinking about Zhang Peihuan. Though those trying to assassinate Zhang Peihuan were highly skilled, her group was rejuvenated and seasoned. In no time, the attackers were either wounded or killed. Still, they showed no inclination to retreat, determined to fight to the death. It wasn't long before only two of the attackers remained. Seeing Yi Xiao readying his dagger, Zhang Peihuan coldly commanded, "Keep them alive." Heeding her orders, both Yi Xiao and Wang Ying adjusted their attacks. Soon, the duo was captured and presented to Zhang Peihuan. Their face masks had been removed, revealing tattoos on their foreheads. Recognizing the mark a unique sign of assassins in the martial world, Zhang Peihuan remarked, "You're from the Dark Blood Pavilion." Hearing their identity disclosed, surprise flashed in their eyes, but they remained silent. This didn't seem to anger Zhang Peihuan. Instead, she turned her gaze to the man on her left, questioning, "Who wishes me dead?" He responded with only silence, avoiding her gaze, prompting a smirk from Zhang Peihuan. Without hesitation, she brandished her whip again, ensnaring the man's throat. With a sudden tug, the man's complexion turned a ghastly shade of green. His companion's eyes widened in horror. Struggling to breathe, the ensnared man's face transitioned from green to a pale white. Just when death seemed imminent, Zhang Peihuan released her grip. Gasping like a fish out of water, he barely caught his breath when the whip tightened around his neck once more. After several such torments, sheer terror filled his eyes, a sentiment echoed by their onlookers, including the imperial guards led by Su Zhao. Their previous contempt had vanished. Taking a step closer, whip still in hand, Zhang Peihuan softly probed, "Last chance, will you speak?" The man's eyes were filled with fear, but he remained silent. The expression in Zhang Peihuan's eyes instantly turned cold. She suddenly pulled the man to the ground. The man next to him was shocked when he saw this. Unhurriedly, Zhang Peihuan coiled up her whip and approached the fallen man. Zhang Peihuan spoke in a chilling tone, "I'm aware assassins like you aren't afraid of dying. But are you afraid of a fate worse than death?" Before the man could react to her words, she swiftly produced 2 silver needles and stabbed them into the man's neck. Intense pain surged through him, causing the man to writhe on the ground. Zhang Peihuan watched him coldly. Once he was drenched in sweat, she stepped forward and removed the needles from his neck. "I'm asking you one last time. Are you going to tell me or not?" I will," the man croaked, looking fearfully at the trembling needle in her hand. She simply stared at him. Meeting her gaze, the man whispered, "I don't know who's pulling the strings, but I know their surname is Lin. I'm not lying. That's all I know." Hearing this, confusion flashed in Zhang Peihuan's eyes. Hearing the surname Lin, her first thought was of Lin Rahai, but she wondered if this incident was because of her or Lin Xingchen. She never once considered that it might be related to Lin Mengyao. "Yi Xiao, release him. Eldest miss, are we letting him go just like that?" Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Yi Xiao looked somewhat disapproving. Still, he untied the ropes binding the man. Zhang Peihuan spoke softly, "Even if he goes back, what awaits him won't be pleasant." With that, she mounted her horse and moved on. The entire group followed in silence, not daring to speak. As dawn approached, Xiao Juanhao and Lin Mengyao were anxiously awaiting news. At the Prince Qing mansion, Pei Wu walked into Xiao Junhao's study. "How is it?" Xiao Juanhao, who had not slept all night, eagerly asked as he saw Pei Wu. After a respectful bow, Pei Wu lowered his head and said, "My lord, we failed." Hearing this, Xiao Juanhao fell silent. After a long pause, he said with a bitter smile, "Is this fate?" His eyes filled with despair. Seeing his expression, Pei Wu quickly added, "Your Highness, don't forget, Meng Yi is heading to Jiangzhou. King Cheng may not make it back to the capital alive." In Lin Mingyu's room, a maid rushed into Lin Mingyu's room. Lin Mingyao immediately put down the book in her hand and asked, "Well?" The maid shook her head. "She's not dead. Miss, the master told me that Miss Jiang has many skilled fighters around her. Besides the guards arranged by King Cheng, she also has the flying feather army of the Jiang family. It's very hard to assassinate her." With every word from the maid, Lin Mingyu's face darkened. She clenched her fists tightly, even though her nails were digging into her palm. In the capital, Zhang Peihuan was unaware of these developments. All she could think of was reaching Jiangzhou as quickly as possible. "Eldest miss, we'll reach Jiangzhou in another day," Yi Xiao whispered, handing her a water bottle. After taking a sip, Zhang Peihuan stored the bottle away. For some reason, as they neared Jiangzhou, her anxiety grew. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her heart. Yi Xiao, noticing this, quickly supported her. "Eldest miss, are you all right?" "I'm fine. Zhang Peihuan shook her head and steadied herself. Then, she looked at Yi Xiao and said, "Let everyone know. We continue moving forward?"
Yes.
Zhang Peihuan felt like her heart was about to leap out of her throat. She suddenly grew worried. Had something happened to Xiaonani or Jiang Changbai? In the military camp at Jiangzhou Master, the king of Chujiang has sent supplies, Han Feng announced, pulling back the tent flap and smiling at Xiaonani. Before Xiaonani could respond, Jiang Changbai from the side couldn't help but ask, "How much did they send?" Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 186. Xiaonani was poisoned, 100,000 caddies. This Zhang Han is somewhat useful after all. Master, shall we send Zhang Han back? Till see for myself. Saying this, Xiaonani rose from his chair. Zhang Han had already been brought to the camp entrance, and when he saw Xiaonani, his eyes were filled with hatred. But Xiaonani ignored him and instead looked outside the camp entrance. There were only 20 people who arrived, but behind them were 3 carriages full of food. Seeing the supplies, Xiaonani gave Han Feng a nod. Catching Xiaonani's signal, Han Feng swiftly cut the ropes binding Zhang Han's hands. Young prince, people from the Chujiang royal mansion, seeing this scene, hurriedly approached. Han Feng, have the men bring the food here.
Yes.
As Han Feng moved forward with his men, those 20 people suddenly rolled up their sleeves, targeting Xiaonani. Master, watch out. Your Highness, be careful. No one expected this. Zhang Shangbai's eyes were filled with concern. Quick, kill them. Zhang Changbai immediately shouted. Han Feng and Lin Xingchen rushed to intervene, but only then did Zhang Changbai realize these attackers were secret guards. Facing more than 20 of these guards was a disadvantage for them. Most of the crossbow bolts were deflected, but one bolt still struck Xiaonani directly in the chest. Seeing Xiaonani hit, the secret guards sent by the Chujiang royal mansion had eyes full of joy. However, their joy soon turned to shock. Even injured, they were no match for Xiaonani. Today, none of you will leave alive. As he spoke, Xiaonani's sword swept across, and half of the 20 guards fell instantly. Zhang Han watched, panic in his eyes. Seeing Xiaonani step closer, he blurted out, 1 a.m. the young prince of the Chujiang royal mansion, you can't. Before he could finish, Xiaonani's sword slashed his throat. Looking at Zhang Han's lifeless body, Xiaonani coldly said, blame your father. At that moment, the remaining guards were killed by Han Feng and Zhang Changbai. Master, seeing Xiaonani collapse, Han Feng rushed to his side. Xiaonani's face turned pale. Zhang Changbai, alarmed, said to Lin Xingchen, quickly, fetch the military doctor. Shortly after, Xiaonani was taken inside the tent, and the military doctor arrived. Opening Xiaonani's clothes, seeing the bolt in his chest, the doctor's expression darkened. Feeling Xiaonani's pulse, the doctor looked even grimmer. How is His Highness King Cheng? Seeing that the military doctor had not said anything, Zhang Changbai could not help but ask, young general, the bolt is poisoned, and it's close to his heart. I don't dare remove it. What nonsense. You're the military doctor. If you can't save him, consider your life over. Zhang Shangbai's eyes blazed with anger. Han Feng hastily took out a porcelain bottle, a medicine given by Zhang Peihuan when Xiaonani had set out. Opening it, Han Feng quickly placed a pill in Xiaonani's mouth. After a moment's hesitation, he gave him another. What did you give His Highness? Zhang Changbai asked urgently. It's the medicine the eldest Miss Zhang gave. She instructed it to be administered in dire circumstances. Military doctor check His Highness pulse once more. Hearing Han Feng's words, the military doctor once again took Xiaonani's pulse. He was surprised. Young General, my lords, His Highness' heart meridian has been protected. However, this medicine can only protect His Highness' heart for 12 hours at most. After 12 hours, if the poison in His Highness' body still cannot be cured, then what? The medicine will be ineffective. What? Hearing the military doctor's words, Zhang Changbai was at a loss for words. If not for the doctor's position, he would have killed him on the spot. At that moment, rapid footsteps echoed from outside. The curtain swiftly lifted. A soldier entered, kneeling on one knee, eyes wide with panic. Young General King Chujiang and his army are just 3 kilometers from the camp. That old fool. Zhang Changbai, gazing at Xiao Nani lying in bed, instructed Han Feng, guard His Highness here. He'll lead our troops against them. Turning to Lin Xingqian, he continued, General Lin, head to Chujiang City. Find doctors, several of them. Ensure King Cheng is cured. Hearing this, both Han Feng and Lin Xingqian nodded simultaneously. Quickly, Zhang Changbai donned his armor and marched out with his soldiers. Zhang Changbai took most of the soldiers in the camp with him. When he climbed up the city wall, he immediately saw King Chujiang mounted on a horse. Their eyes locked, each filled with animosity. Zhang Changbai, the emperor never truly trusted the Jiang family. Your father served him loyally his whole life, only to have his military power taken away. Do you still want to serve such a treacherous emperor? King Chujiang, with a broad face, big ears, and a full beard, said mockingly. Hearing this, Zhang Changbai frowned and replied coldly, King Chujiang, the emperor granted you titles and lands, lavishing you with riches. Yet you're not content and now plot rebellion. Your son Jiang Han is dead. Do you want to lead your entire lineage to their doom? Your youngest son, Jiang Han, is already dead. Do you want your King Chujiang's estate to be completely wiped out? Hearing this, pain and darkness clouded King Chujiang's eyes. The death of his youngest son, Jiang Han, had deeply pained him. However, he had sacrificed Jiang Han in his quest to kill Xiao Nani. Yet, as Xiao Nani never appeared, a smirk crept onto Chujiang's face. Looking triumphantly at Zhang Changbai, he said, Although my youngest son Jiang Han is dead, having King Cheng accompany him in death ensures he did not die in vain. Zhang Changbai, since you are so stubborn, today one will end your life. Attack. As he spoke, King Chujiang raised his hand and swung it down heavily. War drums roared. Looking at the massive enemy forces below, Zhang Shangbai's face darkened, but he continued directing his soldiers into battle. Initially, they held an advantage, but soon they were forced back. It felt as if the enemy knew their every move. Witnessing his soldiers falling one by one, Zhang Changbai leaped off the wall, landing perfectly on his horse. With his sword in hand, he charged straight at King Chujiang, shouting, Today, I will claim your head. As he charged forward, a hint of admiration appeared in King Chujiang's eyes. He showed no signs of backing down, but instead seemed eager. Want to see what the son of Jiang Hong is capable of? Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 187. Jin Pei Huan arrives at the military camp, then let me show you. As his words fell, Zhang Changbai immediately charged forward. King Chujiang had not expected Zhang Changbai to directly come at him. After a few seconds of reaction time, he quickly drew his sword to defend. Zhang Changbai knew that King Chujiang came on purpose. To change the dire situation, he had to fight quickly and decisively. Thus, when he fought with King Chujiang, Zhang Shangbai's moves became more aggressive. King Chujiang was experienced, but after all, he wasn't in his prime for battle. After several exchanges with Zhang Changbai, he began to tire. However, he was too proud to ask for help from those beside him. King Chujiang, you really don't care about your youngest son's death, do you? Upon hearing this, anger flashed in King Chujiang's eyes. Just as he was caught off guard, the long sword in Zhang Shangbai's hand pierced King Chujiang's shoulder. Originally, he had aimed for King Chujiang's heart, but with his extensive battle experience, King Chujiang's first reaction was to dodge. Even so, he was injured. Your Highness? Seeing King Chujiang injured, the soldiers of Jiangzhou showed concern. Retreat. The deputy general beside King Chujiang immediately called out. A moment later, King Chujiang's side began to retreat. Zhang Shangbai's troops instinctively wanted to pursue, but he stopped them. Don't chase. Young general, shouldn't we pursue our advantage? This is Jiangzhou. If we chase, we'll be at a disadvantage. Don't pursue. With that, Jiang Changbai led the army back to the camp. Upon returning to the camp, Jiang Changbai immediately went to Xiao Nanya's tent. Lin Xingqian had already summoned several doctors, but no one could treat the wounds on Xiao Nani, nor could they cure his poson. What's that smell? After standing in the tent for a while, Jiang Changbai noticed a rotting smell. Upon closer inspection, Jiang Changbai realized the smell came from Xiao Nani. Han Feng approached and carefully lifted Xiao Nanya's clothes, discovering that the wound had started to rot. Seeing this, worry filled Han Feng's eyes. All of you are useless. Can't you do anything? No matter how Han Feng raged, the doctors dared not approach. At this moment, Han Feng deeply missed Jiang Peihuan. If she were here, she'd surely have a way to heal Xiao Nani. As he thought this, a sentinel outside announced, "General, there's an army approaching. They dare to come back?" Upon hearing the sentinel, Jiang Shangbai's first thought was that King Chujiang's troops had returned. As he instinctively prepared to go out, Lin Xingqian stopped him. Meeting his puzzled gaze, Lin Xingqian whispered, "Young general, you've just returned from the battle. Let me handle it this time. Take more men with you." All right. Jiang Changbai had complete trust in Lin Xingqian's abilities, so he felt at ease. When Lin Xingqian left Xiao Nanya's tent and stepped outside with his men, he was taken aback by the sight of the approaching party. Upon closer examination, the person leading was indeed Jiang Peihuan. "Halt! Do not shoot arrows." Seeing his soldiers readying their bows, Lin Xingqian quickly intervened. After halting the soldiers, Lin Xingqian rode forward directly. When Jiang Peihuan's people heard the sound, they instinctively drew their long swords. "It's our own people." Upon recognizing the approaching group, Jiang Peihuan immediately spoke. Upon hearing her words, everyone lowered their weapons. Lin Xingqian rode his horse straight to Jiang Peihuan. Seeing who it was, he dismounted and gave a bow before speaking in a hushed tone. "Eldest miss, why have you come here?" "To bring you food supplies." Only after hearing Jiang Peihuan's words did Lin Xingqian notice the piles of grain on the carts. Joyful, Lin Xingqian exclaimed, "That's great." Jiang Peihuan scanned the surroundings, not seeing either Xiao Nani or Jiang Changbai. She couldn't help but ask, "Where are King Cheng and my elder brother?" "The young general just returned to camp. As for his highness, he's injured." "Injured?" Lin Xingqian nodded, briefly recounting the day's events. He then added, "Eldest miss, it's good that you're here. Neither the military doctors nor the city doctor can treat his highness. His wound has started to rot." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's expression grew even more concerned. "Take me to King Cheng's tent."
Yes.
Lin Xingqian immediately mounted his horse, and Jiang Peihuan quickly followed. The two arrived at Xiao Nanya's tent. As they neared the entrance, Jiang Peihuan heard Han Feng shouting, "All of you, get out." Chasing the doctors away, Han Feng lifted the tent curtain, only to find Jiang Peihuan in military attire. "Eldest miss?" Han Feng almost thought he was hallucinating. He rubbed his eyes vigorously, but the figure on the horse remained steadfast. Seeing this, an amused Lin Xingqian commented, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and let the eldest miss in." "Eldest miss, you've come at the right time. Where's Xiao Nani?" "Master is inside." Without another word, Jiang Peihuan entered. "Huan why are you here?" Jiang Changbai, who was inside, emerged upon recognizing the voice. Seeing his sister, his eyes lit up with excitement. "Elder brother, let me see Xiao Nani first. We can talk afterward." "All right, check on King Cheng first." Upon approaching the bedside, Jiang Peihuan detected a putrid smell. Her face showed profound concern as she felt Xiao Nanya's pulse. His complexion was incredibly pale, with barely any color left. After checking his pulse, Jiang Peihuan lifted the clothing on his chest, exposing the black, rotting wound. Her eyes were filled with alarm. Chapter 188. Treating the Rotten Flesh, Elder Brother. Han Feng, both of you hold down Xiao Nanya's shoulders. Remember, He mustn't move. Lin Xingqian, you hold his legs. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's instructions, the three immediately stepped forward. Jiang Peihuan sanitized her hands with white wine, then turned to Yi Xiao and said, "Prepare the hemostatic medicine. As soon as one remove the arrow, apply the medicine powder." "Yes, eldest Mississippi." Following Jiang Peihuan's instruction, Yi Xiao readied several white gauzes, sprinkling the medicine powder on them and holding a bottle of hemostatic medicine in her other hand. After ensuring everything was prepared, Jiang Peihuan turned to the man on the bed, whispering, "Xiao Nani, I am about to remove the arrow. It has barbs, so expect excruciating pain when I extract it. The wound is close to the heart, so you must stay still." "I understand." Upon hearing his response, Jiang Peihuan took a firm grip on the arrow's shaft. The moment she touched it, Xiao Nanya's muscles tensed. In an instant, Jiang Peihuan applied force and yanked it out. The barbed arrowhead took a chunk of flesh with it. Xiao Nani instinctively tried to move, but Jiang Changbai and Han Feng firmly held him in place. Observing the scene, Yi Xiao promptly doused the entire wound with the hemostatic medicine and then pressed the gauze against it. Warm blood stained the gauze. Seeing this, Yi Xiao's expression changed. "Eldest miss, the bleeding isn't stopping." Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Jiang Peihuan quickly took out silver needles. Dozens of silver needles were deftly inserted into Xiao Nanya's chest, and shortly after, the bleeding stopped. Throughout the ordeal, Xiao Nani remained largely silent, looking as if he had been dragged from water. "Xiao Nani, one will now use silver needles to cure your poison. The procedure will be painful, but it's necessary. If you can't bear it, let me know." The man didn't utter a word, but gave a slight nod in acknowledgement. "Han Feng, help your master to a sitting position." Upon Jiang Peihuan's command, Han Feng gently assisted Xiao Nani into a seated posture. Jiang Peihuan moved behind Xiao Nani, removed his upper attire, and began to place needles into his back. Her actions were efficient, and soon Xiao Nanya's back was filled with needles. Despite the intense pain, Xiao Nani bore it silently, only clenching his teeth. After some time, dark blood started oozing from the needle entry points. A groan escaped from Xiao Nanya's lips. Sweat streamed down his forehead. Jiang Peihuan took a cloth and carefully wiped the sweat from his face. An hour passed, and the blood that emerged from the needle sites had turned a brighter shade of red. Jiang Peihuan exhaled in relief before removing the needles. The sight of the grain brought a gleam of happiness to Jiang Shangbai's eyes. However, as he observed, something seemed to cross his mind, introducing a shadow of complexity to his expression. "In the capital city, within Prince Qing's mansion, Your Highness, there's word from the front that King Cheng has been struck by an arrow. The situation appears dire. Is this information reliable?" Upon hearing Pei Wu's words, Xiao Juanhao responded hastily, with excitement evident in his eyes. Pei Wu nodded, elaborating, "The message was directly conveyed by Meng Yi. I believe it to be accurate. The arrow is poisoned with a rare toxin from the western regions. Once infected, the wound will start to rot. Without an antidote within 6 hours, death is certain." Hearing this, Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with excitement. After pausing for a moment, he turned to Pei Wu, inquiring, "Have there been any updates regarding Jiang Peihuan?" "Miss Jiang has already arrived in Jiangzhou. Based on the timeline, she should be at the military camp by now. Keep an eye on them and report any news immediately." "Your Highness, there's another matter concerning Miss Lin. What about her?" Hearing the name Lin Mingyao, a hint of confusion appeared in Xiao Junhao's eyes. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 189. Blame. Miss Lin secretly sent someone to attack eldest Miss Jiang on the way. "You mean Yao Er?" Turning to look at Pei Wu, Xiao Junhao's eyes were full of surprise. Meeting his gaze, Pei Wu nodded. Originally, Pei Wu did not plan to tell Xiao Juanhao about this matter, but after thinking about it, he eventually spoke up. After Xiao Juanhao found out about this, he fell silent. After a long time, he turned to Pei Wu and said, "Go to the Lin mansion and invite her over."
Yes.
After Lin Mingio's poison was neutralized, she went directly back to the Lin mansion. When she heard from Pei Wu that Xiao Juanhao wanted to see her, she hurried to Prince Qing's mansion. As always, Lin Mingyao walked straight into Xiao Junhao's study, but the man who was usually full of smiles now looked at her with a complex expression. Xiao Juanhao already knew. Lin Mingyao wanted to kill Jiang Peihuan. With this thought in mind, his gaze towards Lin Mingyao was filled with complexity. He seemed to have lost the desire for Jiang Peihuan's death. Instead, he wished for her to witness his success and reveal a regretful look. As for what he regretted, only Xiao Juanhao himself knew. "Your Highness, you called for me. Is there something wrong?" Lin Mingyao had been waiting for Xiao Juanhao to take the initiative to speak, but after waiting for a long time and seeing no signs of him doing so, she finally spoke. Hearing Lin Mingio's voice, Xiao Juanhao spoke directly. "One heard that you had someone attack Jiang Peihuan on the road." He spoke in a definitive tone, and Lin Mingio's eyes showed a hint of surprise upon hearing this. But then she looked at Xiao Juanhao with a bitter expression and asked, "Are you blaming me for acting on my own initiative, Your Highness?" Seeing the grievance in her eyes, Xiao Juanhao paused, then his face softened. He stood up, walked over to Lin Mingyao, gently held her hand and whispered, "I'm not blaming you, it's just what?" He couldn't articulate. Seeing the look in Xiao Junhao's eyes, Lin Mingio's heart skipped a beat. She looked at him and spoke directly, "Your Highness, you seem to be growing increasingly fond of Miss Jiang from the Jiang family?" At these words, a hint of anger flashed in Xiao Junhao's eyes. He looked at Lin Mingyao and said coldly, "My interest in her is solely because of the Jiang family." Before Lin Mingyao could continue, he coldly added, "I will deal with Jiang Peihuan myself. In the future, do not act independently." Lin Mingyao was unwilling, but facing his emotionless expression, she still gently nodded, "Yes." Seeing her nod, Xiao Junhao's expression softened slightly. "Yao heir, after some time, one will go and ask Imperial Father to bestow a marriage," he assured her. "Don't worry, the position of Princess Consort of Qing's mansion can only be yours." "Yes, thank you, Your Highness." In the past, hearing these words would have filled Lin Mingio's heart with joy, but now, she perceived them as Xiao Junhao's compensation to her, and suddenly her heart was devoid of happiness. "You should return to the mansion first. One will be busy for a while, and may not have time to accompany you." "I understand. Official duties are important. Then, one will take my leave." Seeing Xiao Juanhao nod, Lin Mingyao left his study. Her eyes were full of tenderness as she looked back one last time. But the moment she stepped out of Xiao Junhao's study, the warmth in her eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a cold, steely darkness. As for what was happening in the capital, Jiang Peihuan was completely unaware. For several consecutive days of traveling, Jiang Peihuan was completely exhausted. So when she lay down in Jiang Shangbai's tent, she immediately fell asleep. However, she was still worried about Xiao Nanyes' injuries, so after sleeping for over an hour, she opened her eyes. Jiang Changbai had not returned to his tent. Only Yishao was at the door. Hearing the noise, Yishao immediately lifted the curtain of the tent. Seeing Jiang Peihuan sitting up, she quickly approached. "Eldest miss, are you awake?" How is Xiao Nani?" Hearing Yishao's voice, Jiang Peihuan nodded and then whispered. Yishao came over to help Jiang Peihuan with her coat and spoke softly. "There is Han Feng watching over His Highness, and we haven't heard any news. I think everything is fine. I'll go take a look." As she spoke, Jiang Peihuan headed straight towards Xiao Nanyes' tent. Han Feng was guarding the entrance of Xiao Nanyes' tent, resting with his eyes closed. Hearing the sound, he immediately opened his eyes. Seeing that the visitor was Jiang Peihuan, he unconsciously smiled. "Eldest miss, why are you here? Are you here to see the master? Please, go in." Before Jiang Peihuan could say anything, Han Feng spoke first, and then helped Jiang Peihuan lift the curtain. Nodding to him, Jiang Peihuan walked directly into the tent. Yishao, who was following Jiang Peihuan, was about to enter, but was stopped by Han Feng grabbing her wrist. Seeing his action, Yi Xiao's eyes were full of confusion. Meeting her gaze, Han Feng whispered, "The eldest miss rarely comes here. Let her have some quality time with the master. Don't go stirring the pot." Hearing this, Yi Xiao's eyes were speechless, but she didn't proceed any further. Xiao Nani was still sleeping. Zhang Peihuan walked to the bedside and first checked the wound. Seeing no signs of infection, she let out a sigh of relief. Then, Zhang Peihuan reached out to hold the man's pulse. It must be said that Xiao Nanye's physical condition was excellent, and his pulse was already very steady. Just as Zhang Peihuan was about to let go, her wrist was suddenly gripped tightly by the man. Zhang Peihuan instinctively looked at him, but saw that his eyes were still tightly closed. This was a completely subconscious reaction. Zhang Peihuan lightly struggled, but couldn't break free. Sensing her struggle, the man not only did not let go, but instead increased his grip. If it were not for the man's steady breathing, Zhang Peihuan would have suspected that Xiao Nani had already awakened. Worried that she would wake Xiao Nani, Zhang Peihuan did not persist and complied, simply sitting down by the bed. Zhang Peihuan had woken up because she was worried about Xiao Nani. Now knowing that he was all right, her eyes were once again filled with drowsiness. At first, Zhang Peihuan could force herself to stay awake, but unknowingly she fell asleep leaning against the bed. Early morning. Huan Air. Zhang Changbai went to his tent early in the morning, but when he lifted the tent, he found it empty and devoid of people. He walked up and touched the quilt on the bed. It was completely cool, indicating that someone had long since left. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 190. Been there whole night. Stepping out of the tent, Zhang Changbai looked around and finally saw Yi Xiao at the entrance of Xiao Nanye's tent. Seeing her, Zhang Changbai hurriedly asked, "Yi Xiao, where is Luan Air?" Hearing Zhang Shangbai's words, Yi Xiao subconsciously looked at the tent behind her. Following her gaze, Zhang Changbai couldn't help but ask, "Is Huan Air inside?" Eldest Miss was worried about His Highness' injuries, so she came over. Has she been there all night? Yi Xiao did not say anything but nodded. Seeing her nod, Zhang Shangbai's face changed immediately. Although the two were already engaged, and although Xiao Nani was injured and couldn't actually do anything to Zhang Peihuan, and although Xiao Nani often visited the palm garden at night when he was in the capital, still, Zhang Changbai walked forward with rage in his eyes. As he prepared to lift the curtain, Han Feng stopped him. "What are you doing? Move aside. Young general, my master is still injured. Please come back later." Han Feng's eyes were full of appeasement, but Zhang Changbai ignored him completely. Thinking of Zhang Peihuan spending the whole night in Xiao Nanye's tent, he felt as if his heart was on fire. "Move aside, or don't blame me for being impolite." Seeing that Zhang Changbai was really going to fight him, Han Feng hurriedly stepped aside. "Master, I have tried my best." After Han Feng stepped aside, Zhang Changbai stepped forward and pulled open the curtain. However, the scene before him stunned him. Zhang Peihuan was lying on the bed with a blanket covering her body. Xiao Nani was sitting on a chair at the side, only wearing a coat. Hearing the noise, Xiao Nani immediately opened his eyes. Seeing that Zhang Changbai was about to speak, Xiao Nani immediately gave him a warning look. Seeing the man's expression, Zhang Changbai subconsciously shut his mouth. Xiao Nani glanced at the person on the bed. His eyes were filled with gentleness. He gently placed Zhang Peihuan's exposed hand under the blanket, and only then did he walk out. With every step Xiao Nani took, he felt a sharp pain from his wounds, but the man was in a good mood. Last night, when he opened his eyes and saw Zhang Peihuan, Xiao Nani almost thought he was dreaming. Only when the pain from his injuries struck him did he realize that Zhang Peihuan had really come. He carefully moved Zhang Peihuan to the bed, and even then, she did not wake up, showing how truly exhausted she was. "Your Highness, are your injuries all right?" Zhang Changbai asked worriedly, looking at Xiao Nanye's retreating figure. Having witnessed that scene, Zhang Changbai had to admit that Xiao Nani had truly fallen for his sister. Xiao Nani was already prepared for Zhang Peihuan to refuse, But after a moment of silence, she picked up the porridge from the table and then took the utensils. She first tested the temperature of the porridge with the back of her hand before bringing it to the man's mouth. Watching Jiang Paihuan's actions, Xiaonanya's eyes were full of warmth. After a moment of silence, he finally opened his mouth. He had joined the army at a young age, and although Emperor Qiming had been very indulgent towards him when he was seriously injured on the battlefield, he had always gritted his teeth and borne the pain alone. This was the first time someone had taken such thoughtful care of him. Seeing the man's fervent expression, Jiang Peihuan dared not look at him and quickly fed him the porridge. After he finished eating, Jiang Peihuan picked up a steamed bun. The tent was very quiet but harmonious. However, this harmony was quickly broken by the sound of horns outside. The two exchanged glances and stepped out of the tent together. At this moment, Han Feng stepped forward. "Master, the people from the Chujiang mansion are challenging us outside. I will go." Jiang Changbai emerged from his tent, dressed in military attire. Since Xiaonani was injured, he was the natural choice to step out and fight in Xiaonanya's stead. But Jiang Changbai had only taken a few steps when Jiang Peihuan stopped him. "Elder brother, don't go yet," she said. Seeing that everyone was looking at her, Jiang Peihuan continued, "In the next few days, no matter how much the people from the Chujiang mansion boast and challenge us, we will not go out to fight. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 191. I'm going fishing anyway. Our food supplies have already arrived. So even if we stay in the military camp for a few days, it won't affect us much. Huan Er, do you have a plan?" Jiang Changbai has always known that his sister was exceptionally strategic, so upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, he subconsciously asks. Jiang Peihuan looked at the sky above her and then said softly, "There will be a storm in 3 days. At that time, big brother, you should take the initiative to attack, with General Lin leading the Flying Feather Army to strike from behind at King Chujiang's mansion." "Miss Jiang, how do you know that there will be rainstorm in 3 days?" Lin Xingqian, who had walked over, heard Jiang Peihuan's words and couldn't help but look up at the sky. At this moment, the sun was shining brightly, and it didn't look like it was going to rain at all. However, Jiang Peihuan remained silent and turned her eyes to Xiaonani. Meeting her gaze, Xiaonani spoke solemnly, "Follow Huan Er's plan. Xiaonani has great prestige in the army, and when he speaks, no one dares to object." After settling everything, Jiang Peihuan whistled, and Lai Feng quickly ran over. Seeing Jiang Peihuan mount her horse, Jiang Changbai hurriedly approached. "Huan Er, where are you going?" Xiaonani had already been sent by Jiang Peihuan to rest in the tent, but Jiang Changbai and Lin Xingqian were still outside. Seeing that both of them were looking at her, Jiang Peihuan said softly, "I'm going fishing. Are you guys coming?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, both Jiang Changbai and Lin Xingqian showed surprised expressions. However, afterwards, Jiang Peihuan, along with Jiang Changbai, Lin Xingqian, and Yi Xiao, headed towards the reservoir behind the mountain. Han Feng couldn't go because he had to stay and guard the camp gate, keeping an eye on the provocative stance of the King Chujiang mansion, 3 kilometers away from the main entrance of the military camp. "Your Highness, it seems that there is no movement on Xiaonanya's side?" The one who spoke was the deputy general beside King Chujiang. King Chujiang had been stabbed in the shoulder by Jiang Changbai, but the wound had already been dressed. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. So after his wound was dressed, he came to the main entrance of the military camp early in the morning. Unexpectedly, the people who actively engaged in battle yesterday were unresponsive today, no matter how they were insulted. "Let's wait a bit longer." Hearing the deputy general's words, King Chujiang said softly. Subsequently, the two armies began a standoff. At this time, Jiang Peihuan had already ridden to the reservoir behind the military camp. This location was chosen by Xiaonani. Since the reservoir is located behind the camp, they do not need to worry about the enemy attacking. "Huan Er, this reservoir doesn't seem like it has any fish." Jiang Changbai got off his horse and looked at the green reservoir. Jiang Peihuan didn't respond, but was carefully searching around the edge of the reservoir. Yi Xiao, seeing her actions, asked softly, "Eldest miss, what are you looking for?" "I am checking to see if there is any matting grass," she replied. "Eldest miss, what is the use of this matting grass?" "The juice of this kind of grass is very attractive to fish and shrimp." As she spoke, Zhang Peihuan had already found 2 purple-green leaves of matting grass in a clump of weeds. Zhang Peihuan rubbed the matting grass to squeeze out the juice and then threw it into the reservoir. A moment later, everyone saw ripples on the water surface, clearly indicating that fish were swimming over. Seeing this, everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. "There really are fish," said Jiang Changbai, his eyes full of smiles. Yi Xiao, who was standing next to Zhang Peihuan, quickly spoke up, "Eldest miss, let me catch the fish for you." "There's no need for you to do it," Zhang Peihuan replied, turning her gaze towards Jiang Changbai and Lin Xingchen. Meeting Zhang Peihuan's gaze, Jiang Changbai resignedly said, "This kind of thing is naturally for us men to do." As he spoke, Jiang Changbai had already taken off the cloak on his body. Then, with a light tap of his toes, he crossed the surface of the water. When Jiang Changbai came back again, he was holding a fish as long as his arm. Lin Xingchen did the same. Afterward, Jiang Changbai and Lin Xingchen were responsible for catching fish, while Zhang Peihuan and Yi Xiao used the grass root to string the fish together. More than an hour later, there were already 2 piles of fish on the ground. Estimating that it would be enough for the soldiers in the camp to have fish soup, Zhang Peihuan looked at the 2 men in the water and said, "Elder brother, General Lin, that's enough. Don't catch any more." Leaping onto the shore, Jiang Changbai looked at Zhang Peihuan with puzzled eyes and asked, "Why not continue catching?" "There aren't many fish in this reservoir," Zhang Peihuan explained. "We have already caught a lot today. We shouldn't leave none behind." Saying this, Zhang Peihuan handed the string of fish in her hand to Jiang Changbai. Zhang Peihuan had intended to help carry the fish, but Lai Feng was very averse to the smell of fish and wouldn't allow her to put the fish on its back. With no other option, Zhang Peihuan smiled and handed the fish to Jiang Changbai, who was beside her. He reluctantly smiled, and as he was about to take it, Lin Xingchen reached out and said, "They'll take it? Okay, then I'll leave it to you." After returning to the military camp, Zhang Peihuan had Jiang Changbai send the fish to the kitchen, but she also took one for herself. An hour later, Zhang Peihuan walked into Xiao Nanye's tent with a bowl of fish soup. When she entered, Xiao Nanye was about to take his medicine. Seeing Zhang Peihuan, he smiled and said, "Huaner." Zhang Peihuan walked to the bedside and placed the fish soup on the table. Then she looked at Xiao Nanye, but when she smelled the medicine, she frowned. "This medicine?" Seeing Zhang Peihuan staring at the medicine in his hand, Xiao Nanye looked puzzled. "Isn't this the conditioning medicine you had the military doctor prepare?" "Let me see." Hearing Zhang Peihuan's voice, Xiao Nanye handed the medicine to her. As she took the medicine bowl from him, a soldier standing nearby suddenly made his move. He drew a dagger and aimed directly at Xiao Nanye. Zhang Peihuan, who was sitting at the bedside, saw this and immediately threw the medicine bowl at the soldier and drew her whip from her waist. Seeing Zhang Peihuan engage with the soldier, Xiao Nanye instinctively wanted to help, but Zhang Peihuan stopped him sharply. "Don't intervene." Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nanye looked displeased but didn't act further. Instead, he shouted towards the outside of the tent, "Is anyone there?" But at this moment, it was time to change shifts outside, and Han Feng and others did not want to disturb Xiao Nanye and Zhang Peihuan, so they were not at the entrance. For a moment, no one noticed the fighting inside the tent. While Zhang Peihuan was fighting with the man, she realized that he was highly skilled, clearly a professional assassin. "Miss Jiang, Your Highness, what is this?" Lin Xingchen, hearing the sound of the struggle, hurriedly lifted the curtain of the tent. Just as Jian Peihuan was feeling a little tired, Lin Xingchen heard the sound of fighting and quickly opened the curtain. Seeing him, Xiao Nanye immediately ordered, "Capture this man." Hearing Xiao Nanye's command, Lin Xingchen quickly stepped forward. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 192. Taking care wholeheartedly with Lin Xingchen's help, the soldier was quickly captured. But just as he was captured, Jiang Peihuan saw blood seeping from him, and he soon fell to the ground. Rushing forward, Jiang Peihuan found that he had taken a potent poison, which was hidden in his teeth. "Who is this?" Jiang Peihuan said, her eyes filled with frustration as she looked at the man on the ground. Lin Xingqian did not expect this person to commit suicide. He frowned and said in a low voice, "I'll investigate it now." He was about to leave when he heard a voice from Xiao Nani behind him. "There's no need to investigate." Seeing the puzzled looks on Jiang Peihuan and Lin Xingqian's faces, Xiao Nani calmly announced, "He is a secret guard from the palace." With this simple sentence, Jiang Peihuan immediately understood who was behind this. "Drink the fish soup first," she suggested after a pause, turning her attention to the man on the bed. Upon seeing this, Lin Xingqian dragged the corpse out of the room. After he left, Jiang Peihuan began to feed Xiao Nani the soup. With her previous experience, she was very skilled this time. However, looking at the fish soup in his hands, Xiao Nani was very surprised. "Where did you get the fish?" "Caught it in the reservoir behind the camp," she replied. Was that man sent by the great Empress Dowager? Once Xiao Nani had finished his soup, Jiang Peihuan looked at him and softly asked this question. Xiao Nani didn't answer, but he nodded. Why? This was not the first time. Jiang Peihuan could not help but look at the man and ask. Although Xiao Nani was not the great Empress Dowager's biological son, Xiao Nani was very loyal to Emperor Qiming. Therefore, Jiang Peihuan could not understand why the great Empress Dowager would repeatedly send people to assassinate Xiao Nani, especially since he posed no threat to her. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, a shadow passed across Xiao Nani's eyes, but he still softly replied, "Huan heir, I can't tell you about this matter yet." "So you do know why the great Empress Dowager wants to assassinate you," she deduced. Yes, he acknowledged, meeting her eyes and nodding. Upon seeing this, Jiang Peihuan's expression changed, and after a long while, she softly asked, "Does the emperor know about this?" "The great Empress Dowager is always clean and decisive in her actions," he explained. Furthermore, she is the emperor's biological mother. Even if Emperor Qiming really knew that the great Empress Dowager was behind the attempts on Xiao Nani's life, he wouldn't be able to do anything to her. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan fell silent. She didn't want to continue this topic and instead turned to the man on the bed and said, "For the next few days, one will stay in your tent to take care of you. Then he'll order someone to prepare another bed." An hour later, Han Feng ordered someone to carry a soft mattress into Xiao Nani's tent. Zhang Shangbai's eyes were filled with dissatisfaction when he saw the mattress. However, considering that Xiao Nani had just survived an assassination attempt not long ago, if he really drank the medicine, he would definitely die. At the thought of this, Zhang Changbai did not say anything in the end. Time swiftly passed, and soon it was the third day. "Huan heir, are you sure it will rain today?" Although Jiang Changbai had always trusted his sister and knew that Jiang Peihuan was never a person to make baseless claims, he still revealed a hint of doubt in his eyes when he looked up at the bright sun. Hearing Zhang Shangbai's words, Jiang Peihuan looked up at the sky. She squinted her eyes and then smiled, saying, "Elder brother, don't worry. It will start raining in less than an hour at most." Aside from Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani who remained composed, the others looked up at the sky from time to time. For the past 3 days, the people from King Chujiang's mansion had been making clamors outside the military camp, but no matter how much they yelled, there was no response from Xiao Nani's side. As time passed, the words from those people became increasingly unbearable, and the soldiers on Xiao Nani's side were feeling quite suppressed. An hour passed quickly. This time, not only Jiang Changbai but also Lin Xingqian were getting impatient. The two walked towards Xiao Nani's tent. As they were lifting the curtain, they heard a clap of thunder. Soon after, big raindrops started falling. The sky that was clear just moments ago was instantly covered with dense clouds. The two looked at each other and saw surprise in each other's eyes. Inside the tent, Jiang Peihuan watched as Han Feng was helping Xiao Nani put on his armor and couldn't help but frown slightly. Seeing Jiang Changbai and Lin Xingqian enter together, Jiang Peihuan turned her head towards them. "Huan heir, you really are magical." "It actually started raining," Jiang Changbai exclaimed. The rain will get heavier tonight, Jiang Peihuan replied. Elder brother, victory or defeat will be determined tonight. If we succeed tonight, we can return to the capital soon, she continued. I understand, Jiang Changbai said. Your Highness, how are your injuries? At this moment, Jiang Changbai noticed that Xiao Nani had changed into his military attire and, considering Xiao Nanya's injuries, worry appeared in his eyes. But Xiao Nani casually said, It's no big deal. Tonight, all of you are going to act and I, as the commanding general, naturally have to show up. If one keep hiding, it will arouse the suspicions of King Chujiang. Elder brother, please arrange for dinner to be prepared. Chapter 193. King Chujiang's death. Looking at the sky, the rain was getting heavier and heavier. King Chujiang's military camp was already in chaos, with fighting noises everywhere. Xiao Nani sat on Zhuge Yun's back and watched everything quietly. At this moment, the sound of horse hooves came from afar. Seeing the man on the horse rushing into King Chujiang's tent, Jiang Peihuan's lips curled into a cold arc. Your Highness, there is a trouble. Someone cried. King Chujiang was fighting with Jiang Changbai. Hearing this, he subconsciously turned his head. In that instant, he was stabbed in the chest by Jiang Shangbai's sword. Then, King Chujiang fell from his horse. Jiang Changbai stepped forward with his sword, but was stopped by the people beside King Chujiang. Ignoring the wound on his chest, King Chujiang looked directly at the man who arrived. What happened? The mansion has been set on fire, was the reply. What did you say? Hearing this, King Chujiang's eyes darkened. Where's the prince? King Chujiang, your son, the Prince Chu, is here, someone announced. As King Chujiang's words fell, Lin Xingqian rode up on his horse. In his hands was a bloody head that King Chujiang recognized as his eldest son's at a glance. What have you done? King Chujiang stuttered. King Chujiang, surrender now, came a cold command. At this moment, Jiang Changbai raised his sword and aimed it at King Chujiang. Ha! Hearing Jiang Shangbai's words, King Chujiang laughed as if he had heard a hilarious joke, though his eyes were devoid of any mirth and filled with coldness. He looked at Jiang Changbai and said coldly, Today, one will have you buried with me. As he spoke, King Chujiang suddenly revealed a crossbow in his hand, aiming it directly at Jiang Changbai. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan's face changed drastically. Elder brother, be careful, she warned. When Jiang Changbai heard the warning, he subconsciously dodged, but he was too close to King Chujiang to completely avoid the attack. At this moment, an arrow flew straight towards them, knocking the bolt from King Chujiang's crossbow out of the air. This arrow was shot by Xiao Nani. Still holding his bow and arrow, Xiao Nani shot a second arrow, aiming directly for King Chujiang's neck. King Chujiang's neck was pierced by Xiao Nani's arrow. The man rode his horse forward and chopped off King Chujiang's head. Holding the severed head in his hand, Xiao Nani spoke coldly, King Chujiang is dead. Lay down your weapons, and I will spare your lives. Otherwise, none shall be spared. The people of King Chujiang's mansion initially wanted to resist, but after hearing Xiao Nani's final words of none shall be spared, everyone froze. One of them was the first to drop their weapon, and eventually, all the soldiers laid down their arms. I'll leave this to you guys, Xiao Nani said after glancing at Jiang Changbai and Lin Xingqian, before turning to Jiang Peihuan. Huan let's return to the camp. All right. Jiang Peihuan was still concerned about the man's injury. Those 2 arrows that Xiao Nani had just shot must have aggravated his wounds. But in front of so many people, Jiang Peihuan said nothing and just nodded. However, just as they were about to return to the camp, they saw a group of people rushing over. Hearing the sound, Xiao Nani instinctively shielded Jiang Peihuan behind him. But when the newcomer approached Xiao Nani, he immediately dismounted. Greetings, Your Highness, King Cheng, the man kneeling on the ground said. He was dressed in brocade, but his expression was timid. Seeing him, Han Feng whispered into Xiao Nani's ear, Master, this is the illegitimate son of King Chujiang, Jiangcheng, Jiangcheng, are you aware that your father is already dead? Xiao Nani spoke directly. Jiangcheng, who was kneeling on the ground, had already seen the corpse at Chujiang's mansion. When he heard Xiao Nanye's voice, he lowered his head and said in a low voice, "Father deserved what he did. However, Your Highness, our King Chujiang's mansion had no intention of rebellion. On behalf of King Chujiang's mansion, I am willing to surrender our land and titles. We only hope that His Majesty will spare the lives of the hundreds in our mansion." You represent King Chujiang's mansion? Hearing Jiang Cheng's words, a hint of surprise appeared in Xiao Nanye's eyes. Hearing this, Jiang Cheng looked up, and after a moment, he said firmly, "Yes, one can represent King Chujiang's mansion. In that case, you will accompany me to return to the capital," Xiao Nani declared. "Yes, thank you, Your Highness." After saying this, Xiao Nani didn't look at Jiang Cheng anymore and directly returned to the tent with Jiang Peihuan. As soon as they entered, Jiang Peihuan said to Han Feng, "Take off your master's clothes." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Han Feng was stunned. After a few seconds, he hurried forward. Seeing the cold look in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Xiao Nani felt a little guilty. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he said softly, "Huan I didn't." Before he could finish speaking, a sharp pain radiated from his chest wound, and Xiao Nani glared at Han Feng darkly. Sensing Xiao Nanye's warning gaze, Han Feng said with a bitter face, "Master, the wound has stuck to the gauze." Jiang Peihuan initially wanted to ignore Xiao Nani, but hearing this, she couldn't help but step forward. Xiao Nani was wearing armor, so his wound had not touched water, but the wound had adhered to the gauze. After carefully examining it, Jiang Peihuan looked at Han Feng and coldly ordered, "Go prepare some white wine."
Yes.
Han Feng felt relieved and hurried away. After he left, Xiao Nani tried to hold Jiang Peihuan's hand, but she immediately pushed it away. You. Hearing the man's cries of pain, Jiang Peihuan showed some concern, but when she was held by him, her eyes revealed some anger. "Huan I really didn't do it on purpose. Please don't be angry." "I'm not angry. I just heartache." When applying medicine to Xiao Nani, Jiang Peihuan noticed that his body was full of scars, cuts from swords and knives. There were several just on his chest. "Eldest miss, the white wine is here." At this moment, Han Feng lifted the curtain. Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything else. Instead, she took a clean handkerchief, dipped it in white wine, and then used it to moisten the gauze on Xiao Nanye's wound. Xiao Nani couldn't help but gasp sharply when the white wine touched his wound, but he didn't make a sound. After the gauze was wetted by the white wine, Jiang Peihuan carefully peeled the gauze that had stuck to the wound. Then, she carefully sprinkled medicine on the wound. After dressing the wound, Jiang Peihuan didn't look at Xiao Nani. Instead, she looked at Han Feng. Han Feng had been standing quietly by the side. Seeing Jiang Peihuan suddenly looking at him, his heart trembled. This lady in military attire seemed colder than his master. "Eldest miss, do you have any other orders?" If Xiao Nani uses any more strength again, his right arm might be crippled. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Han Feng was stunned. Follow current novels on Top Novel.com. Chapter 194. Finding Ming Yi a few seconds later, he looked firmly at Jiang Peihuan and said, "Eldest miss, rest assured, from this moment on, one will make sure that the master does not exert any strength." In the time that followed, Han Feng stayed close to Xiao Nani, hardly leaving his side. After Jiang Peihuan treated Xiao Nanye's wound, she left the man's tent directly. That night, Jiang Peihuan did not rest in Xiao Nanye's tent. Until the next day, Xiao Nani had not seen Jiang Peihuan appear before him. Xiao Nani, who had waited all night, could not hold back any longer. "What are you doing?" Just as he reached the entrance of the tent, he saw Han Feng standing in front of him. Han Feng swallowed his saliva when he saw Xiao Nanye's cold expression. Then, he said softly, "Master, one think you should rest well? If eldest miss finds out that you hurt yourself again, she will definitely be angry." Hearing Jiang Paihuan's name, the anger in Xiao Nanyes's eyes dissipated a little. However, when he spoke to Han Feng, the man's expression was still cold. You have learned to handle me well now. I wouldn't dare. Han Feng couldn't help but mutter, but when Xiao Nani looked over, he quickly shut his mouth. I injured my hand, not my leg. Am going out for a walk. Hearing this, Han Feng did not stop Xiao Nani any further. Just as Xiao Nani stepped out of the tent, he saw a hurried Jiang Changbai. He quickly approached and asked, Where is Huan Er? Isn't Huan Er in your tent? Seeing that Jiang Changbai was also puzzled, Xiao Nani frowned and proceeded to move forward. At this moment, Jiang Peihuan was accompanied by Lin Xingchen, after someone in Jiangzhou City. Eldest miss, it seems like the person went that way, but over there are the homes of common people, and it wouldn't be appropriate for us to go there. Yishao looked at the urban area in front of her, frowning. Hearing her words, Jiang Peihuan said in a low voice, Let's go back first. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Peihuan turned to Yishao and said, Arrange for people to keep watch at each intersection. If there is any movement, notify me immediately.
Yes.
Eldest miss, who were you chasing just now? It was someone under my father's command. After saying this, Jiang Peihuan said nothing more. Because King Chujiang was already dead, and King Chujiang's mansion was under Jiang Cheng's control, Jiang Peihuan decided to go into the city to buy some things. But as soon as she arrived in the city, she saw Mingyi's figure. Jiang Peihuan did not know why Mingyi would appear here, but she knew that there must be some conspiracy involved. However, as Jiang Peihuan pursued, Mingyi disappeared. Having been in the army for many years, Mingyi was agile. That's why Jiang Peihuan had Yishao call for Lin Xingchen, but they still lost him. Jiang Peihuan was not in the mood for shopping. After instructing Yishao, she returned to the military camp. When she reached the entrance of the camp, she saw that Jiang Changbai and Xiao Nani were preparing to go out. Where have you been, Huan Er? Seeing Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Shangbai's eyes were filled with worry. Xiao Nani, on the other hand, subconsciously looked over Jiang Peihuan, and upon seeing that she wasn't injured, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Seeing the worry in everyone's eyes, Jiang Peihuan softly said, I'm fine. Then, Jiang Peihuan entered Xiao Nanyes's tent, and Jiang Changbai followed her in. After sitting down, Jiang Peihuan turned to Jiang Changbai and said, Elder brother, I saw Uncle Meng. Why is he here? Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Shangbai's eyes were full of surprise. The person you are talking about is Mingyi? Xiao Nani already knew about the conflict between Mingyi and the Jiang family, so he whispered when he heard the conversation between the siblings. Hearing Xiao Nanyes's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded. Then, Jiang Peihuan continued, Elder brother, I don't know why Uncle Meng came here, but he must have some kind of plot. We have to find him. But Jiangzhou City is neither too big nor too small. Where are we going to look? Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything and looked at Xiao Nani. Meeting Jiang Peihuan's gaze, Xiao Nani promptly said, Are you thinking of asking Jiang Cheng for help?
Yes.
Facing Xiao Nanyes's gaze, Jiang Peihuan replied, The Chujiang royal mansion has been in Jiangzhou for many years, almost as if it's the local emperor. As long as he helps, we will definitely find Mingyi. Han Feng, hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani immediately shouted to the outside of the tent. Just as Xiao Nanyes's voice fell, Han Feng walked in. Master, go and call Jiang Cheng. Tell him that one has something to discuss with him.
Yes.
An hour later, Jiang Cheng was brought to Xiao Nanyes's camp. When he heard that Xiao Nani wanted to see him, his eyes were full of panic. Seeing Xiao Nani sitting in the main seat, he hurriedly stepped forward to pay his respects. Greetings, Your Highness. Jiang Cheng, I called you here today because I have a few questions for you. If Your Highness has any questions, feel free to ask. I will definitely tell you everything I know. Do you know Mingyi? Hearing Xiao Nanyes's question, Jiang Cheng's eyes showed a trace of confusion and doubt. Jiang Peihuan's gaze was fixed on Jiang Cheng's face. Seeing that his expression didn't seem to be fake, she gently said, Young Master Jiang, one wonder if anyone has come from the capital to look for King Chujiang recently?
Yes.
Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's question, Jiang Cheng fell silent. After thinking for a moment, He nodded. Seeing his nod, both Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Shangbai's eyes showed a trace of joy. She subconsciously asked, "Young Master Jiang, do you know who came and what their purpose was in seeking King Chu Jiang?" "I don't know who the visitor is. I only heard that he came to seek cooperation with my father." At this point, Jiang Peihuan was even more certain that the visitor was Meng Yi. As for who would cooperate with King Chu Jiang, she could more or less guess. Turning to Jiang Cheng, Jiang Peihuan continued, "Young Master Jiang, could I ask for your help?" "Eldest Miss Jiang, if you need anything, just tell me." Jiang Cheng already knew that Jiang Peihuan was to be Xiao Nanye's future queen, so he was very courteous to her. Jiang Peihuan looked at Jiang Cheng and simply explained her plan to find Meng Yi. Hearing her words, Jiang Cheng nodded. "Rest assured, eldest Miss Jiang, one will cooperate fully." Inside Jiangzhou City, in a farmhouse, Meng Yi sat in a chair in the house, his eyes full of anxiety. The homeowner, a middle-aged man, saw Meng Yi's anxious demeanor and whispered, "General Meng, the city is now full of people looking for you. You can't go out for the time being." Hearing the man's words, Meng Yi's eyes were filled with unhappiness, but he nodded. "I know. I'm just worried that if Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Changbai find me here in Jiangzhou, it will surely cause trouble. With so many residents in this city, even if they search house by house, it will take a long time. I believe they won't find me here." Knock, knock. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 195. Plan. As soon as the man finished speaking, there was a knock on the door. Upon hearing this sound, both Meng Yi and the man's eyes showed a hint of panic and unease. After exchanging a glance, the farmer asked in a questioning tone, "Who is it?" "Uncle Li, it's me," came the reply. After a moment of silence, the person outside spoke again in a low voice. Hearing this voice, the farmer, known as Uncle Li, sighed in relief. But Meng Yi's eyes still showed a hint of caution. When the farmer went to open the door, Meng Yi quickly hid behind a nearby tree. Meng Yi only walked out when he saw that the man was not followed by anyone. "Li San, why are you here at this time?" he asked. Li San was the nephew of the farmer. Both of them were Xiao Junhao's men, but they had been arranged to stay here by the Qing mansion a long time ago. Hearing his uncle's words, Li San spoke softly. "Everyone in the city is now searching for General Meng everywhere. We need to find a way to get General Meng out. Of course we have to get him out, but how can we do it under these circumstances?" Uncle Li replied. Hearing his uncle's words, Li San lowered his head and said softly, "I have an idea." "What idea?" Before Uncle Li could say anything, Meng Yi could not help but speak. Although he still felt a bit panicked, considering the predicament he was currently in, he was somewhat worried. Looking at Meng Yi, Li San whispered, "General Meng, tomorrow night I have to transport a cart of fruit to the outskirts of the city. At that time, you can hide in my cart. I will conceal you among the fruit. You will be safe." "Are you sure it will work?" Meng Yi asked. "Please rest assured, General Meng, it will work," Li San assured. Seeing that Li San was very confident, Meng Yi nodded his head in agreement. After everything was arranged, Li San then turned to Uncle Li and said, "Uncle, we'll go back first. They'll come back to pick up General Meng tomorrow." "All right, be careful on the road," Uncle Li responded. Li San nodded, then turned to Meng Yi and gave a bow before leaving. After Li San left, he walked a distance before heading in the direction of the King Chu Jiang mansion. In the military camp, Jiang Peihuan was changing the bandages for Xiao Nani when she saw Jiang Changbai lift the curtain. Seeing Jiang Peihuan tending to Xiao Nanye's wounds, Jiang Changbai remained silent. Only after she had finished everything did he turn to Jiang Peihuan and say, "Huan there is news." Meeting Jiang Peihuan's gaze, Jiang Changbai said softly, "A message has just come from King Chujiang's mansion, saying that they have found Uncle Meng's hiding place. But Huan why won't you let me go to find him right now?" "Elder brother, going now would be akin to alerting the enemy," she replied. "I want him to reveal himself voluntarily." After saying this, Zhang Peihuan continued, "Elder brother, let's go together tomorrow night. We must not let him escape." In her previous life, the entire Jiang family had been exterminated. The person Zhang Peihuan hated the most was Xiao Juanhao, and the second most hated would be Meng Yi. Meng Yi was originally just an ordinary person. It was only because of Jiang Hong's guidance that he rose to his current position. However, not only did Meng Yi not feel any gratitude towards Jiang Hong, but he also schemed against him in every way possible, especially when he had poisoned Jiang Changbai in the Northern Territory. In her past life, Jiang Changbai was directly poisoned to death. Jiang Hong and his wife were devastated by this incident. Thinking about these things, Zhang Peihuan couldn't help but wish she could kill Meng Yi immediately. The next evening, after arranging everything, Zhang Peihuan and Jiang Changbai left the military camp. However, they saw Xiao Nani following behind them. Seeing him, there was a hint of helplessness in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. "Your wounds are still. I'm just coming with you and won't do anything that would strain my injuries," Xiao Nani softly interrupted before she could finish speaking. Hearing this, the speechlessness in Jiang Peihuan's eyes deepened, but she didn't say anything. She just turned her gaze to Han Feng. Meeting Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Han Feng's eyes were full of frustration, but under the pressure, he still said, "Eldest /Ias, rest assured, I will definitely take good care of the A/Laster." Outside of Jiang City, Meng Yi was hiding inside a fruit cart. Seeing that everything was quiet along the way, he couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief, a trace of satisfaction appearing in his eyes. However, seeing that Li San continued to move forward, he whispered, "That's enough. Let me down here, and you should hurry back." "General Ming, there's no need to rush," Li San replied with a smile. Because it was dark, Meng Yi didn't see the inexplicable mockery in Li San's eyes. Just as Meng Yi was about to speak, he heard the sound of horse hooves. He subconsciously turned around and saw Jiang Changbai on horseback. Meng Yi prepared to flee, but Jiang Changbai spurred his horse forward. Looking at Meng Yi, who was attempting to get up, he said with a mocking smile, "Uncle Ming, where are you planning to go?" Seeing Jiang Changbai on the horse, Meng Yi's eyes were filled with mixed emotions. After a moment of silence, he suddenly drew his large sword. Meng Yi swung directly at Jiang Changbai, but his wrist was suddenly hit with a sharp pain. It turned out that Zhang Peihuan, who was rushing over, had seen this scene. She quickly drew the long whip from her waist, flicked her wrist, and lashed it towards Meng Yi's wrist. In pain, Meng Yi turned his head and saw Zhang Peihuan approaching. "You," he began. Chapter 196. Capturing Meng Yi. Without waiting for Meng Yi to say anything, Zhang Peihuan continued, "My father has treated you generously, and your rank and reputation were earned through my father." "You, shut up." Before Zhang Peihuan could finish speaking, Meng Yi coldly interrupted her. With darkened eyes, he glared at Zhang Peihuan and Jiang Changbai and bitterly said, "For all these years, I've been serving under Jiang Hong. Although one half contributed significantly, I've always been picking up the leftovers that he didn't want. When it comes to military achievements, the entire Qi Kingdom thinks of Jiang Hong. One clearly contributed as much as him, so why should I always be inferior to him?" Hearing Meng Yi's words, Jiang Changbai was stunned. But Jiang Peihuan's eyes remained calm. At this moment, a mocking laugh sounded from the side. It was from Xiao Nani. Seeing him, Meng Yi's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He thought Xiao Nani had already died, but here he was, standing perfectly fine before him. "So, just because you yourself are incompetent, you're jealous of the great general. Is this the reason you betrayed your master?" Xiao Nanye's voice was not loud, but every word seemed like a slap to Meng Yi's face. He looked at Xiao Nani, his eyes full of resentment. Seeing the look in his eyes, Xiao Nani suddenly smiled. However, the disdain in his smile grew even stronger. "Let me ask you, if you were to lead the army alone, could you manage? Do you know how to arrange formations? Can you command? Can you mobilize and comfort your soldiers?" Without waiting for Meng Yi to reply, Xiao Nani continued. With every question from Xiao Nani, Meng Yi's face turned a shade darker. Xiao Nanya's disdain was very obvious in his eyes. Looking at Ming Yi, he said softly, "You're just from a humble background, and even your martial skills were learned in the army. Without the great general's support, you'd forever be nothing but a foot soldier. Do you really think that war doesn't require brains? With a brain like yours, what can you do other than scheming against the people who trust you?" Xiao Nanya's words were very harsh, but Meng Yi couldn't come up with a rebuttal. Zhang Peihuan and Zhang Changbai, who were standing on the side, were surprised by Xiao Nanya's words, especially Zhang Peihuan. She didn't expect this man to have such a sharp side. "People like you don't deserve to live." As his words fell, Xiao Nani turned to Han Feng and commanded, "Kill him and feed him to the dogs."
Yes.
Hearing Xiao Nanya's voice, Han Feng immediately drew his dagger. He had never defied Xiao Nanya's orders, so now, with dagger in hand, he was already moving towards Meng Yi. Seeing this scene, Meng Yi subconsciously tightened his grip on his sword. After Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan had entered the carriage, Jiang Yin and Jiang Cheng got into the one behind. "Sister, are you really sure about this?" After getting on the carriage, the smile on Jiang Cheng's face disappeared. His eyes were filled with worry as he looked at Jiang Yin. Seeing the look in his eyes, Jiang Yin spoke softly, "We do not know whether we will live or die on this journey to the capital. This face of mine has no other use. If it can bring you a sense of peace, I am willing." "Sister, don't talk like that," Jiang Cheng said, his eyes full of pain upon hearing Jiang Yan's words. He was King Chujiang's illegitimate son, and his mother had long been tormented to death by the Queen of Chujiang. If it weren't for Jiang Yan's care, he would have died long ago. Therefore, when he knew that Jiang Yan wanted to go back to the capital with him, Jiang Cheng was very much opposed. Seeing how upset Jiang Cheng was, Jiang Yan's eyes were filled with a smile and gentleness. She reached out and patted his shoulder. Jiang Yan said in a low voice, "Our father is dead, but his affairs have caused the surrounding feudal lords to become restless. At this time, the emperor must want peace. Therefore, the emperor might spare our lives when we enter the capital." As she spoke, Jiang Yin brought up Xiao Nani and looked at Jiang Cheng. Jiang Yin said in a low voice, "One heard that King Cheng is very favored by the emperor. If we could—" "Sister, don't even think about it," Jiang Cheng interrupted, reaching out to cover her mouth before she could finish her sentence. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.